Let me call the meeting to order. Good evening, everybody. Just as a reminder, if you'd like to speak before the council tonight, please complete a blue speaker card request form and give it to the clerk prior to the item coming up that you wish to speak on. Can we get a roll call?
Councilmember Plott?
Here.
Councilmember Rigby? Here. Councilmember Rush?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Lorimore?
Present.
Mayor Tassari?
Here. Tonight's invocation will be presented by Pastor Rob Norris of The Crossings.
Please join me as we pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time together, Lord. We pray for the city of Eastville, Lord, as we come to an end of another year. Lord, we thank you for the blessings that you've brought our city, that so many people call home. Lord, we pray for going into 2018. May it be an incredible year, a prosperous year for Eastville. Lord, we thank you for all the men and women that serve this city, that give up time from their families and their loved ones, so we can truly be a great city to live in. We thank you for this meeting. May we not get ahead of your schedule. God, may we trust in you in all we do. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. And tonight we have special guests. Girl Scout Troop 1500 will be leading us in the pledge.
Girl Scout attention. Color guard advance. Color guard post the collars. Color guard honor your flag. Will the audience please join me in repeating the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Color guard dismissed.
Thank you very much. All right, now we'll move on to item 3, City Council reorganization. This is for the office of the mayor and the mayor pro tem. 3.1. I will entertain a motion for the mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to motion that, am I on?
Are you on?
I would like to nominate Mayor Pro Tem Clint Larimore for the office of mayor for 2018.
I will second that.
Councilmember Lorimore?
Aye.
Councilmember Plott?
Yes.
Councilmember Rigby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rush?
Aye.
Councilmember Tassari?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right. I'm out of here. It's all yours.
Before we move on the agenda, Michelle. Okay, well, true honor. But Joe, you got to get back up over here. Actually, we all need to get down there. But first of all, what we have here is a gavel recognizing Mayor Joe Tassari for his leadership over the past year. And we're going to get down there and take a photo together. But sir, congratulations.
Joe, if I may, this man has worked, we have children in the audience, has worked his behind off. I know how hard it is. It's stressful. It's very demanding. So thank you on behalf of all of us for your hard work and dedication to the city.
Thank you very much, Adam. I know you gave me the gavel because I really like to lay the hammer down, I know.
You can take it off.
No, it's been a real honor. It's been very humbling, and it's been a great pleasure. I can't think of anything more exciting, but also more intimidating when I first started. And coming from you, Adam was our very first mayor ever of this city. I greatly appreciate it. Thank all of you guys. Our staff made it very easy, kind of. But they do an awesome job, and they've always been there to support me whenever I've needed something. And you guys do a great job. Thank all of you. Thank you to my colleagues, and thank you to everybody in Eastvale for being so kind. Thank you.
See if you got one that's attached, because they still.
Thank you. All right. Let me see here. So I think the plan of action here, what we're going to do, we're going to get through the Mayor Pro Tem decision, and then we're going to take a break, a brief break to get out and take a couple pictures, and then we're going to move forward with the rest of items 3 there. So I will entertain a motion for the office of Mayor Pro Tem.
I'd like to entertain a motion to appoint Councilman Todd Rigby as Mayor Pro Tem.
I will second that motion.
Councilmember Plott,
Yes.
Councilmember Rigby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rush,
Aye.
Councilmember Tassari,
Aye.
Mayor Lorimore.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, we're going to take a brief 5-minute break. Congratulations. Yeah, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Get out and say hello to everybody, take a couple pictures. All right, we're going to get this meeting kicked back off. We're going to quickly jump into item 3.2, and that's Planning Commission appointments. Submitted by Stephen Aguilar. Stephen, do you want to say anything? He's not here. Jessica, do you want to say anything? I was wondering where Stephen was. That's
Okay, so every year the City Council appoints planning commissioners to appoint for the Planning Commission. You have the option of reaffirming your existing planning commissioners, or you may direct staff to advertise for a vacancy or vacancies if that is what you wish.
okay. How is everybody with their current planning commissioners? Anybody?
I'd like to reaffirm Commissioner Oblea to remain on the Planning Commission for District 2.
Okay, excellent.
I'd like to reaffirm Commissioner Josh Lee as well.
Okay.
I would like to reaffirm Commissioner Charleston also for District 1.
Excellent.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The same for me. I'd like to reaffirm Commissioner Karen Patel.
Okay, and I would like to reaffirm Planning Commissioner Howard Fang. So, do we need to take a vote on that?
No, if you are reaffirming, you do not need to.
All right, making it easy. All right, moving on to item 3.3, Public Safety Commission appointments. Does anybody have any changes?
No, I'd like to reaffirm Commissioner Sean Parilla as District 2.
I'll reaffirm Christian Dinko for District 5.
And I would like to reaffirm Commissioner Ward, District 1.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to reaffirm, there he is, Mr. Christian DaCosta as my Public Safety Commissioner.
And I would like to reaffirm Richard Wall. So, all right. We do not need to take a vote on that. City Council regional appointments. All right. Do we have this attachment? Is it in this packet?
Yes, sir.
There it is. That's subcommittee. Okay. This will take me a second, actually. Sorry.
One.
Just one.
Congratulations to all the commissioners on your
Yes,
reappointment.
congratulations. Okay. Are you good with regional appointments? Okay. As it is right now. Okay. For the regional appointments, like to keep everybody as they are. I think time at these agencies, there's a learning curve. And so we have the Riverside Transit Agency, WRCOG, Western Riverside Council of Governments, Riverside County Transportation Commission, Western Riverside County Regional Conservation Agency, Southern California Association of Governments, and the Northwest Mosquito and Vector Control. If you hang around till the end, you'll hear reports on what we do at these meetings. But I think that everybody is doing an amazing job where they are. Would anybody like to see a change from where they currently sit? Okay. I would like to submit that the current regional appointments remain the same. Do we need to vote? Yes.
Yeah, I was just
Adam.
going to add, and to that end, Councilmember Ben Benoit today was appointed as the second vice chair to RCTC. So in 2 years, we'll have, I think, an ally at the chairmanship at RCTC from a small city's perspective to hopefully try to get some things moved through. So that was a good appointment on our part this morning.
That's wonderful. Good news. I'm happy for him. All right, let's see here. This is, we're going on to, I'm sorry. We're on item 3. Do we need to vote on that, or it just is?
No, you don't need to vote.
Okay. All right. Item 3.5, City Council Subcommittee appointments. All right, we have the Eastvale Finance Subcommittee, Eastvale Schools Committee, Economic Development Committee, the Eastvale Parks Commission, the I-15 Design Subcommittee, the Civic Center Library Subcommittee. Does this list? That's all of them, right? Okay, one page. All right, and I also think that everybody's been doing an amazing job for these positions. I do need to look at notes.
If I may, I know that.
Yes, sir.
Oh, wait.
Does anybody
No,
have
never
any
mind.
preferences? That's what I'd like to get feedback on.
Is there a need? We have alternates on, I think, our Economic Development Committee and our Parks Committee. Is there any need to have an alternate on our Schools Committee? I haven't been attending those, so I'm not sure, but just for clarity's sake.
I've been attending those on a regular basis. I don't know. I don't think it hurts to have an alternate.
Isn't Joe the alternate, or aren't you the alternate?
There's 2 of us on it already.
Yeah.
If there's no need for redundancy, it's fine with me.
Did you want to be on there, Adam? Would you like to be?
If there's no, not necessarily. I mean, if there's a need, I'm happy to assist. If it's redundant, then
Are we able to add in alternates on these positions? Yes, please.
Mayor, Mayor Lorimer. Sorry, it's old habit, and I was about to say Mayor Tesseri. Mayor Lorimer, that certainly is council's desire, if that's what you wish.
Okay.
I would like to point out, though, that with the Eastvale Schools Committee, you have a public safety commissioner appointment to make. There's a vacancy there. And then for the I-15 Interchange Design Subcommittee, you also have a public safety commissioner vacancy there as well. So making new appointments to those two subcommittees would be advised at this time.
Okay.
And on I-15, I actually had a meeting with Patty Romo yesterday on another topic, and we started chatting. I had thought that the construction manager contract had gone to the Board of Supervisors. She didn't think it did. There's Joe. There's Joe. So she was going to check on that, but longevity, how long is this I-15 subcommittee still going to have something to do? Given SB1, given the construction schedule, all that stuff. Is that a committee that's going to fall off here pretty soon?
We believe so. It looks like the construction of that project will commence in August of 2018. But we wanted to keep the committee active for the time being in case something should come up that needs to be discussed or revisited. We didn't want to have anything create a delay. So you may wish to change it from the I-15 Interchange Design Subcommittee to a different name, because we are beyond the design phase, but there may be a few curveballs. Well, hopefully not, but I think having a subcommittee in place kind of helps us expedite the process.
Something with a cool acronym.
A cool acronym?
Do we have a legislative subcommittee? How does that work?
You know, Mayor Lorimer, that is something, thank you for catching that. We did overlook that. And yes, we do have a legislative action subcommittee, which consists currently of Councilmember Adam Rush and former Mayor Joe Tesseri.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have any preferences as to additions, changes for your subcommittee assignments? Okay. I do want to make a couple of changes, and I'd like to add Adam Rush in place of Joe Tesseri to the Eastvale Finance Subcommittee. Let me see here. You guys are all good, though, with what you currently have? Okay. All right. Let me see here. Moving down the list. I would like to create that alternate position on the Eastvale Schools Committee and place Adam Rush there. You asked for it, Adam. All right. Economic Development Committee, I think that's great. Eastvale Parks Commission, are you gentlemen good?
Yeah.
The Parks Commission?
Yeah, I think it's good too, because we're also working, obviously we're there with JCSD, so it also helps us continuously work together on the street lights. So, and me and Todd have been working on that very closely, so
Good.
I like that.
I think we have a winning team there. So that's Brandon Plott and Todd Rigby, and those meetings, they meet on the third Thursday of every month over just down the street. So I encourage you to attend those if you have park-related comments or concerns. I-15, I believe that we're there, but I would like to include my public safety commissioner into the vacant slot. So Mr. Richard Wall, assuming that his schedule works. Does that work for you? Okay. And for the subcommittee,
If I may,
yes,
on
sir.
that one, do we
Yes.
want to, off as suggesting the city manager, do we want to look at renaming that? I don't know, would that be a committee that would be useful with the Hamner Bridge also, or is that something totally different that we aren't really involved in, or?
Excuse me, the Hamner Bridge, Mayor Pro Tem Rigby, is the City of Norco is the lead jurisdiction on that. And they're much further down the road on the process and the planning. It is something that could certainly segue into lending assistance in that nature in a future date. But yes, maybe a more universal name that could kind of encompass.
Transportation or something
I have one.
subcommittee.
It's not a cool acronym, but the Infrastructure Implementation and Coordination Committee.
Whoa, that's a
If that's-
mouthful.
If that's not too alliterative.
I-15I?
Yeah. Or IC.
No, I know that's a mouthful, but I think that's a good. It would describe what that committee would really be used for.
It's just a suggestion.
What do we decide on?
Infrastructure Implementation Coordination Committee,
Okay,
or Infrastructure Implementation and Coordination Committee.
done. Let's do that.
Sounds good.
Would you restate that one more time?
Infrastructure Implementation and Coordination Committee,
You got that?
Excellent.
IICC.
ICC? IC?
All right, excellent. All right, the Civic Center Library Subcommittee. I enjoy that. I would like to get Adam Rush's input on that. So, and I really appreciate working with you, Joe. But I want to get Adam put in on that one. As to the Ledge Action Committee, would you be okay stepping back from that?
It's fine with me.
Okay. I want to make sure I'm not, but is there another place I can put you in elsewhere?
No, I think the many people in the public don't realize how time-consuming all of these committees. You know, we don't just come to the 2 council meetings every month. You know, there are multiple meetings all week. So I would enjoy some free time. So,
Okay, I would like to place myself on the Ledge Action Subcommittee, and I believe that completes this. Do we need, we don't need a vote on this, correct?
Yes, you do need to
We do
vote
need
on
to
the
vote on
changes.
this, since we made changes.
I would
Okay.
move that we implement the changes as previously described by our mayor.
Second.
Councilmember Plott,
Yes.
Councilmember Rush,
Aye.
Councilmember Tassari,
aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Rigby,
Yes.
Mayor Lorimore.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Mayor Lorimar, I'm sorry, sir.
Yes.
If we could make one slight change.
By all means.
The Finance Subcommittee, it would be most useful if there's an alternate on there,
Okay,
because that is a meeting that is very time critical and difficult to move.
I will volunteer myself as an alternate.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Do we need to take a revote on that? We will need to revote on,
Okay.
well, not revote, but take another vote.
okay, excellent.
Motion.
We need a new motion for that.
Yeah,
correct?
I would move the
Yes, sir.
changes to add Mayor Clint Livermore as the alternate to the Finance Subcommittee.
Second.
Councilmember Plott,
Yes.
Councilmember Rush,
Aye.
Councilmember Tassari,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Rigby,
Yes.
Mayor Lorimore.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, we are now moving on to item 4, presentations and announcements. Item 4.1 is the introduction of the city's newest employees. Mrs. Neeson.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, and members of the community. We do have 2 new folks that have started at Eastvale City Hall, and I'd like to take this opportunity to formally introduce you to them. Our first position is Olivia Applegate. She is our communications specialist, so this is Olivia. And just to give you a little bit of background on Miss Applegate, her prior work experience, prior to the city of Eastvale, she worked with the city of Chino Police Department from November 2010 to November of 2017, where she served as a crime prevention specialist. Throughout her employment with the city of Chino, Olivia has been a part of every major outreach, education, and prevention program that the Chino Police Department provided to the community. Some of those activities include Youth Academy, Citizens Academy, Neighborhood Watch, National Night Out, Red Ribbon Week, every 15 minutes, the Explorer program, crime prevention through environmental design, crime-free multi-housing program, and many others. She also served as a member on the Chino Police Department social media team, where she assisted in communicating information to the public and media upon request. I've been a huge fan of their Facebook presence, so very happy to have her on board in that matter. She's currently pursuing her Bachelor of Arts degree in communication and intends to pursue a Master of Public Administration thereafter. Olivia resides in the city of Upland with her husband, and we are very honored and very happy to have her join the City of Eastvale team. So welcome aboard. Next up, we have Ava Tarakova. She is a Western Riverside Council of Governments fellow that has been assigned to the city of Eastvale, and both of these ladies are working in the city manager's office. So Ava Tarakova is our WRCOG fellow. She is currently pursuing a Master's of Business Administration at California Baptist University, and she's interested in city government. Her studies abroad in Russia, Egypt, and Turkey, as well as her bachelor's degree in cultural anthropology with a focus on Middle Eastern affairs, has exposed her to international relations, policy writing, and evaluation. She is now seeking to translate that knowledge as well as the ethical leadership practices from the degrees she currently holds in pursuing local government and public service. So we are very pleased again to also have Ava be joining the Eastvale team, courtesy of WRCOG, and both of the ladies are very, very hard workers, and they bring a lot to the table, and again, we're honored to have them join us. So thank you. Don't mean to put you on the hot seat, but would either of you like to say a few words?
Speech.
I will keep it very short and sweet because we have a long night ahead of us. But I am super thankful for this opportunity. I kind of grew up here in the city of Eastvale because my grandparents lived, I don't know, I'm going to just keep on going back and forth. They lived in Eastvale before it was incorporated, so I got to see and be a part of the amazing transformation of the city of Eastvale. And I remember playing at one of the first parks in the city, and it's just been so cool to see it grow so rapidly. And so I'm just super excited to be a part of this team, and it's an amazing team. And I've been here for only 2.5 weeks and learned so much thanks to Aaliyah, and I can't wait to continue to grow in this role. And if you ever need anyone, just let me know.
And I would just like to say thank you. This is an amazing opportunity, and the team here is also amazing. It's a small but very effective team, and I have already learned a lot in my 2.5 weeks as well. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, and welcome to the city of Eastvale. Yeah, I think that some of you two brought some fans with you too, so that's awesome. From previous jobs, when your former boss comes over, that means a lot. So we are lucky to have you both. So welcome on board. All right, we are going to move to item 4.2, and that is the recognition of Recycling All-Stars from Waste Management. Will the council join me at the speaker's podium to recognize the business and individuals? I think these are they. Come on up.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and members of the community. Each year, the city of Eastvale, in partnership with Waste Management, recognizes 1 business in the city of Eastville and 2 residential customers for their outstanding recycling efforts. These individuals and business are actually recognized by our drivers for the frequency, the quality of the recyclables, and also for their commitment to, being green in our city. So tonight, we actually have a representative from Wendy's, who is our business recipient. Rick Martinez is here. He's their general manager. And on behalf of Waste Management, I would like to present him with a certificate where we recognize his outstanding recycling efforts.
And you can't go anywhere quite yet. The city of Eastville also is going to recognize you as a recycling all-star. So in recognition of Wendy's Commercial Recycling All-Star, congratulations on your achievement, sir. Thank you. Thank you for being a good partner in our community. Let's take a picture. Yeah, it's required.
It's all part of it.
Tonight we have one of our residential customers here and attending. Unfortunately, Berna Lucas wasn't able to attend, but today we want to recognize Damian Vargas as our residential recycling all-star of 2017.
All right, the city of Eastville is also going to recognize this achievement, and I gotta know how you do this. This is awesome. This is for Damian Vargas, Residential Recycling All-Star. Congratulations on your achievement, and this is from the city of Eastville. Congratulations.
I do want to point out that normally every year we recognize the household as the recycling all-star for residential customers. However, Damian's family decided to give it to him in particular because he is on everyone on to recycle. So he is the reason why they are recycling bananas. Okay, so obviously the qualifications is that the driver notices that if the cardboard is flattened, recyclables are clean, and also that they have a high frequency all the time of consistency.
Hey, Joe, you want to trade? So we can remember who we are up here. All right. We also did have one other individual that is being recognized, but they're not here tonight, and that's Verna Lucas. So we'll get him next time, I think. We'll be able to award this to him next time. Okay, that concludes that one. Moving on to item 4.3. It's a presentation on a weekend full closure on the northbound and southbound I-15 connectors to westbound 91. So, yeah. Ms. Neeson.
Well, I'm Ms. Neeson this evening.
Well, that's
Mayor,
not what this says.
Mayor
But yes,
Lorno
please.
Orimor, Congratulations, Mayor Larimore and
Thank you, Joe.
Mayor Pro Tem Rigby. Good evening, council members. This evening we have a very quick presentation actually. This is an RCTC project as part of 91 project that we have just completed after 3-4 years of construction. There is a little bit of repair work that has to happen in one of the connector on the 91 that would impact the northbound I-15 to eastbound 91, westbound 91, and the southbound I-15 to the westbound 91. If I can just get a picture here. I know it's kind of small, but let me just try to see if I can I do the pointer here? Yeah. This is the 15, this is the 91, and the merging lane that is being fed from the southbound I-15 to the westbound, and that's feeding also being fed from the northbound I-15 to the westbound 91, has a big pothole repair that have to work. And the only way it's going to work is if they close both of these interchange interconnectors from 15 both directions. And they're going to close this for 55 hours beginning on January 5, which is Friday at 9 p.m. And they're going to open on January 8th at 4 a.m. before the traffic starts again. So they're going to work around the clock to work on this. And we feel this is the most closure that will impact the residents of Eastvale, because Eastvale resident on the way from home, from Eastvale is right here, going down, go to 91, they cannot use this interchange at all. They have to either use 2nd Street or 6th Street, go to Main, but even there are some closures as well at Main and the 91. So we're going to be posting this on our website, and there is a clear explanation of what's going to happen there. And also, we have reached out to RCTC. RCTC declared or stated that because all this work is going to impact multiple cities in the future, they would have a common statement to all the city councils, Corona, Norco, Eastvale, Rupa Valley, everybody else is going to be involved and impacted by these closures. But when we found out and we learned about these closures, we reached out to RCTC and invite them to come to the city council tonight to make presentation. But they said that they would prefer to do it separately through circulars, through announcement at their websites. But this is something that we have posted on our website, and we're going to continue to post this and notify our residents to be alerted. Thank you.
Mayor Lorimer and
Yes.
council, to add, we did also reach out to the city of Chino. I reached out to the city manager to make them aware of this as well, because this may likely result in increased traffic down Schleisman to Pine to the 71 as people try to bypass the congestion. This is what we have historically experienced, and that is why we felt it very important to make this announcement tonight at the council meeting, why we have a captive audience with quite a few people here. It is already, as Joe had stated, on the city's website, and we will be pushing out the announcement a few more times before the date. But we really want to encourage our residents, that our commuters or residents, that we do have a lot of public safety personnel here that work odd hours, that will be caught up in this inconvenience, to build in extra time to your commute, and please find alternate routes and maybe even take advantage of some carpooling or Metrolink during this time. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody? Any questions? Thank you for the update, Michelle and Joe. Appreciate it. All
I
right.
just want to comment.
Yes, Adam.
Michelle had mentioned the public safety personnel. Metrolink does allow all law enforcement and firefighters to ride the train for free while in uniform. So if you don't know that, they do allow. You do have to be in uniform. You don't have to be on shift or anything, but as long as you wear a uniform, you can ride the train for free.
Interesting. All right. That's good to know, especially in our town. That's absolutely. All right, that concludes item 4.3. We will need to add an additional presentation item, and that is item 4.4, which will be an update provided by Chair DaCosta of the Public Safety Commission. However, we can't do that until we vote on this, right?
I would move that we add the presentation item.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Plott,
Yes.
Councilmember Rush,
Aye.
Councilmember Tasari,
Yes, I would like to hear this.
Mayor Pro Tem Rigby,
Yes.
Mayor Lorimore.
Aye. Mr. DaCosta, Chairman DaCosta.
Thank you. Good evening. Mr. Mayor. Mayor Lorimore, Mayor Pro Tem Rigby, council members, city staff, citizens of Eastville. Season's greetings, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year to all in attendance. And I wish to thank Adam for your reaffirming appointment, and to all council members for reaffirming those appointments. I speak on behalf, I'm sure, of my colleagues on the Public Safety Commission as well as Planning Commissions. Thank you for your appointments for those previously selected. Now, tonight, I believe you may hear from our law enforcement personnel as they bring you up to date with some recommended changes to the coming year and what they are looking to bring in to our department with the increased hours of law enforcement personnel through the week, as well as their recommendation, which is to not only increase their 10 patrol hours as was previously agreed by the fiscal financial meetings and discussions, but they would also like to bring in a motor officer, to which this item was presented at the Public Safety Commission and was voted on unanimously. So I'm here to just enlighten you to that possibility that when it is presented, you'll have other options to choose from. This, however, was the option that we went with on the Public Safety Commission side. The other thing that I wanted to address is the cameras that are installed throughout the city. Law enforcement personnel have access to for the purpose of reporting crimes and doing your research and investigations. And those cameras, Craig Bradshaw will bring you up to speed, I'm sure. Those cameras were problematic. According to the manufacturer, we may have gotten a bad batch of cameras, and they are currently being replaced at no cost to the city. A question that was not addressed was whether or not the warranty will extend or be renewed by the replacement. So another item for you to consider when it comes your way. That concludes my update, and I'll take any questions at this time.
Councilmember Rush.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Christian, for your update. Could you summarize, just in maybe less than a paragraph, what the pertinent questions, any major concerns were during your discussion, the Public Safety Committee, regarding the law enforcement update?
Regarding the law enforcement update, we had the additional 10 hours of patrol that was more so exclusive with some of my colleagues that we were considering. And as a result of some of the other considerations with DLF funding and other businesses and warehouses with the increase of Goodman Commerce, we saw it fitting and appropriate with that increased income, the possibility it might be a need for commercial enforcement, and bringing in a motor officer was the other entitlement to our consideration with that regard.
Okay. One of the questions I have, and we can address this on the actual item, but just to give everyone a heads up, is I'm not opposed to the increase at all, but I want to know, what the substantial impact is going to be as far as increasing response times. What measurable effects is it going to have? What metrics are in place to where we can see the delta between our existing pro forma or response times, citations, things of that nature, how much do we think that addition is going to help the situation? So appreciate your, yeah.
If I may just the verbiage, it's a matter of, we would like to reduce, not increase the response time.
Correct.
Because that is a matter of concern with the city, as we hear it quite often.
Yeah.
And it's one of the concerns we talk about at the public safety.
Yeah, how much of an increase in hours is going to provide us, that, what's that measure of reduction, so, thank you.
And real
Council
quick, just on
members-
a clarification of that, just for the public's information, sorry, we are seeing a reduction in response time currently. As you look year over year on our statistics, the Sheriff's Department's doing a good job with the resources they have, and we are currently seeing a reduction in response time for especially Priority 1.
And if I could share with the council members and members of the public, our Captain Hedge will be doing a PowerPoint presentation along with this item on the agenda later this evening, and he will be able to address many of your questions, as well as myself. I'll be speaking on how it relates to the budget and other factors. So we'll cover that during that item.
So you're saying we shouldn't go after the messenger right now?
Duck, no.
Okay. Any other questions for Chair DaCosta?
No, thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate the update. Thank you. All right. That brings us to item number 5, our student liaison report. He's so far away now. I don't know. So that we're gonna turn to Oscar Zuniga for his report. And how did I do on the last name? Okay.
Yes,
All right.
perfect.
Good.
Thank you and good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Rosa Parks will be tracks A, B, C, and D will be having minimum day on Friday, December 22nd, following up with their winter break starting on Monday, December 25th, 2017, until January 5th, 2018. Ronald Reagan Elementary is welcoming their students to their annual winter boutique. Times will vary throughout the week, Monday, December 11th, until Friday, December 15th. Ronald Reagan students will also have the opportunity to have Cookies with Santa on Thursday, December 14th from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastville Elementary students held their PTA holiday boutique last week on December 7th for their students, and yesterday students from tracks B, C, and D participated in Eastville Elementary's canned food drive for a settlement house. But as for this morning, band students had a performance at 8:45 a.m. Tracks B and D will have their winter season What If Week from Monday, December 18th to Friday, December 22nd. Students are encouraged to dress up according to the day's theme and participate in activities put on by the school's counselor. The day's themes include Monday, Ugly Sweater Day, Tuesday, Christmas Pajama Day, Wednesday, Red and Green Day, Thursday, Santa Hat Day, and Friday, Christmas Accessory Day. And on Thursday, December 21st, kinder students will have their holiday performance. River Heights Intermediate School held their first trimester award celebration on Tuesday, November 29th. Over 50% of scholars were recognized for earning a trimester GPA of 3.5 or higher. They are also holding their annual Yelp community speaker event on Friday, December 15th. Students will get to hear various speakers share their occupation and education necessary for their occupation. River Heights is currently planning for their annual Science and Engineering Expo on January 22nd, 2018. Augustine Ramirez Intermediate School just had their first CNUSD Intermediate Cross Country race at Eleanor Roosevelt High School last week on December 8th, and they also had their winter choir concert. Tomorrow, December 14th, Augustine Ramirez will have their winter guitar concert at 7 p.m., and on Tuesday, December 19th, their whole band will be performing live at 7 p.m. On Thursday, December 21st, Augustine Ramirez students will be able to explore careers and cultures on campus throughout the day throughout their winter extravaganza. Thursday, December 1st marks their winter break beginning until Monday, January 15th. Thank you. I'll be happy to answer any questions now.
Any questions? I do want to know how many of those days are you going to dress up?
Those are specifically for Eastville Elementary, but
okay. I'm sorry.
At Eleanor Roosevelt, we already had a Spirit Week, and I dressed completely all out for all of them.
That's so cool.
Yes,
That's
sir.
cool. I like that.
Thank you.
Thank you for the report, Oscar. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay. At this time, we're going to move on to public comments. I'm going to have to read through this part here. So any member of the public that may wish to address the city council on items within the council's subject matter jurisdiction, but which are not listed on the agenda during public comments. However, no action may be taken on matters that are not part of the posted agenda. We request that comments made on the agenda be made at the time the item is considered, and that comments may be limited to 3 minutes per person. Please address your comments to the council as a whole, and do not engage in dialogue with individual council members, city staff, or members of the audience. Jessica, do we have any public comments?
Yes, we do. The first public comment card received was from Harry Dimon.
Excellent. Mr. Chamber President, sir.
Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, City staff, and fellow residents. My name is Harry Jiman. I'm the President of Eastville Chamber of Commerce. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Looking forward to working with both of you in
Thank you.
exciting 2018. Sir, Joe Tsari, thank you for your leadership. I greatly appreciate your support throughout the year to the Eastville Chamber of Commerce. Greatly appreciate it.
It was a pleasure, Harry.
Great idea of the coffee, the council, but I drink coffee only in the morning at 5 o'clock I switch. So have a different drink next time. And it's time of the year that we all get together during the holiday season and thank each other for work that we do together throughout the year and get ready for an exciting new year. And I'm here to thank you, all of you, for your support throughout the year with all the different events that we have done together. It's been a great, successful year. We greatly appreciate on behalf of Board of Directors and members of the Chamber. I want to thank you, our Chief Daniel Head. Thank you for your support to the local businesses and the service that you provide to our community. We appreciate it very much. Very special thanks to Michelle and Aaliyah. I saw her somewhere here earlier. Maybe she left already. So thank you so much for your support. Your support has been really, really successful, doing very wonderful event, and we're looking forward to doing big things in 2018. In 2018, we have very exciting stuff going on. The Business Expo will be held on April 19. National Day of the Prayer Breakfast. Next year, that will be our third year in a row. Doing that will be on May 3rd. State of the City, we have to push a little bit further due to we had a conversation with Michelle yesterday because of the fiscal year ending in June, so you will have the clear numbers to talk about, and that will be held on July 24th, pending your approval. Installation dinner, we have to push a little bit further, so that will be on October 23rd. And then the holiday mixer next year, December 7th. So we got a very exciting year, a lot of events. These are all major big events that we have been doing for the past couple of years. And once again, thank you for your time and looking forward to a very exciting 2018. Thank you.
Do you guys have any questions for Harry?
No, Harry, just a comment.
Or
But
comments?
all the
Oh, I'm
events you
sorry,
had,
this is public comment. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
all the events you had were fantastic, and the holiday mixer especially, way to top it off. It was a great time. A lot of people showed, and a good way to end it off. And also kudos to Platinum Collision too, that they hosted a good event as well. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
I'm sorry I broke my own rule, what I just read a minute ago. So thank you, Harry, for all your hard work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any other public comments?
Yes, our next speakers are Bill and Suzanne Elliott.
Evening.
Good evening, Council. My name is Bill Elliott. This is my wife, Suzanne. We've been residents of Eastville now for 12 years. Approximately 6 years ago, we had some family that moved in our cul-de-sac, and 5 times a year, to have these parties, and they'll last from 4 to 5 a.m. in the morning. Our neighbors and us have called the sheriff's department. The sheriffs leave 5-10 minutes later, and the music goes back up.
They also park their cars illegally in the cul-de-sac, and when the officers come out, they allow them to move their cars and they don't ticket them. And I just think on street cleaning day, people get tickets on street cleaning day and they leave their car in the street, but the officer doesn't come up and knock on your door and give you the chance to move your car, like they do it with these cars.
They block the driveways, they block the only fire hydrant on the cul-de-sac. It's not uncommon to get up in the morning and find beer bottles on your front lawn and paper plates with candy, hot dogs, and hamburgers. We used to have an ordinance in the city that on the second or third time somebody throws one of these parties, they get an $1,800 fine. And we bring that fine back into Eastville.
I want to make sure that we do have their contact information. Is that correct? Are you finished with your comments, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for coming forward and sharing with the council. I want to make sure we do have their contact. No. Sir, Mr. Elliott, can you please share your contact information with city staff? We want to make sure to follow up on this.
And just to add, if I can,
Please.
I'll be brief. You know, what was described on some of these priority 3 calls is kind of what I alluded to in my previous comments, and we're bringing up during our law enforcement discussion. So,
And just to go off of that, Mr. Elliott, these instances that you're referring to, has law enforcement been contacted and responded, or has it not been a? I think that's the key thing, is to make sure that law enforcement is contacted.
The contact on each and every party. I know I'm not the only one that calls. All the other, I shouldn't say all the other neighbors, but I know that these 2 neighbors, they tell me all the time, we call. When they had, not this last party this weekend, but the party about 3 months prior, I called at 10 p.m. My daughter called on her cell phone at 11, and my wife called at 12. I called back at 1, and they said, well, Mr. Elliott, you're the only one that has called us. I said, well, Dean and Christina across the street and Kenny on the other corner, I know they called. So don't tell me I'm the only one that calls. We had an individual on our block that had cancer in 2012, and they had chemo and radiation, and they weren't feeling well at all. And they don't care about it. They don't care about other people.
I think the thing to do is to continue to make sure that law enforcement is contacted with these situations, and I know our law enforcement is here this evening, and they will definitely get your information and be in touch with you.
They're called out 4 or 5 times every year. I had one sheriff tell me, oh, we're used to coming here. We know where this house is at.
We have our leadership here within the law enforcement, within our police department, so they're well aware of it, and they will
I think the
definitely be in
lieutenant
contact with
is
you.
waiting for you in the back to talk.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Elliott. Ms. Cooper.
Our next speaker is Christopher Folger.
Good evening, Council.
Evening.
So I was noticing this pamphlet says that the tollings, the 50 tollings, begin at Cajalco Road and end by the 60, which is 15 miles of tollings, if I'm correct. That's also where Riverside County's jurisdiction is. San Bernardino County Transportation Authority, or also most commonly referred to as SANBAG, they're in the talks of adding tollings from the 60 all the way to Highway 395 in Hesperia. They're just talking around, they haven't approved anything, but if so, we will have 48 miles of tollings from the Cajalco Road all the way to Highway 395 in Hesperia. Furthermore, the California Transportation Commission last Friday, December 7th, held a meeting, and what they were talking about is imposing a vehicle mileage tax based on the amount of miles person drives. They haven't voted on anything. They're scheduled to meet April 20th, 2018 in San Diego. But some of the things they were talking about, putting a device in your car that tracks the amount of miles that you drive and tax you from there. So something relevant to point out.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Ms. Cooper?
Our last speaker is Matt Woody.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, Council, I just want to congratulate Mr. Lorimer and Mr. Rigby for your selection today by your fellow council members. I know that Mr. Tessari has provided strong leadership, but I know the transition will go fairly well. I just want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. I've seen a lot of proactive, conscientious leadership here in Eastvale, in marked contrast to my particular city of Corona, where the council members have struggled in many respects. So even their transition was not able particularly well. So I just encourage you there and keep up the good work. And then I also wanted to bring to your attention, you're probably familiar with this. Today I was here in the city campaigning, as you know, I'm campaigning for the congressional spot, District 42, currently held by Ken Calvert. And I was out online tonight campaigning today, waving my sign around, trying to get some attention from Eastvale residents. And I found out I was running afoul of city sign ordinance. So the city manager and code enforcement officer nicely pointed out to me and provided the ordinance. I'm somewhat troubled by some of the details. It seems rather restrictive in relation to our First Amendment, but I'll continue to find the best way to work within those rules and continue to be here meeting and chatting with people within the city of Eastvale. So not a whole lot other than that, but I'll continue to be in contact with the city manager and look forward to seeing you all in the future again.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Does that conclude our public comments?
Yes, sir.
All right. Excellent. Thank you all for your feedback today. At this time, we're going to move forward to our consent calendar. All matters on that's items 7.1 through 7.14. All matters on the consent calendar are considered routine and are to be approved with one motion unless a council member, staff member, or a member of the public requests a separate action on a specific item. Starting with council, does anybody want to pull anything? City staff?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
We have a correction on item 7.2.
7.2.
The minutes should reflect an abstention from Councilmember Adam Rush.
Understood.
And staff has been made aware for the oversight, and we will be making that correction in the minutes.
Okay, excellent.
So we would like to continue the minutes till the next meeting, or yeah, we can pull the minutes and bring them back to you at the January 10th meeting for approval.
Okay.
With a correction.
Is that the easiest path forward, or can we make that amendment right now?
I think the easiest way to do it would be to pull that item off of the consent calendar and then bring it back in January.
Yep. Okay. To have a corrected version that's published.
Okay, excellent.
I'd move the balance 7.1 and 7.3 through 7.14.
Second.
Okay. All right. Just to make sure, any members of the public asked for anything to be moved or pulled? Ms. Cooper?
Councilmember Plott?
Yes.
Councilmember Rush?
Aye.
Councilmember Tessari?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Rigby?
Yes.
Mayor Lorimore?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
So for item 7.2, will that item will be brought back, no further actions required on our part? Okay.
That's correct. We'll bring it back at the first meeting in January, which is January 10th, and that would include 2 sets of meeting minutes, one for this evening and the corrected one for the previous meeting.
Excellent.
Thank
Okay. Moving on to item number 8, public hearings. We have 3 public hearing items tonight, and we have items 8.1 and 8.2 to start with. We're going to start with 8.1. 1 second. Joe? May I confer with you? It says script. So where do I go? See, relying on the wisdom of our former mayor here. So thank you, Joe. All right. Item 8.1, the formation of Community Facilities District number 2017-1, the Goodman Commerce Center, and Mr. Riley, Interim Finance Director. Do you have a report?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
And congratulations, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you.
This is we have a couple of these today. We'll start with this first one for the Goodman Commerce Center. On October 25th, 2017, at that council meeting, the council approved a resolution of intent to form a community facilities district for CFD number 2017-1, which is the Goodman Commerce Center. In previous years, property owners of new developments requested annexation into the County of Riverside Landscape and Lighting Maintenance District, or LLMD 89-1, for the purposes of levying an assessment to pay for specific maintenance and services on improvements related to their development. In order to best serve the property owners and to simplify the administrative process, it was decided that community facilities districts, or CFDs, would be a better use as a financing mechanism for specific maintenance and services on improvements related to new development. And what this does is when we create a community facilities district, or CFD, that excuse me, rather than the city bearing the cost of the development, that money coming out of our general fund, that money instead is assessed to those that are within that district, and that district pays for the maintenance costs there. So the recommended actions that we're bringing today, it's a number of them. First is to adopt a resolution for formation of the Community Facilities District, to adopt a resolution calling for a special landowner election for the Community Facilities District, to adopt a resolution declaring the results of the special landowner election and directing recording of a notice of special tax levy, and then if these items 1 through 3 are approved by the council, to adopt an ordinance for levying special tax within the community facilities districts for first reading. There's a particular script and process in this whole mechanism, and I believe that Mrs. Cooper has that, and I think that information has also been passed on to you as well, Mr. Mayor. So that concludes my report.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions this time? Yes.
I have a couple
Mayor
of
Pro Tem.
questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Kind of just for clarification for myself on these, when something like this comes forward, are the property owners notified of like this right now, or is that not
Yes.
until the special election?
Yes, they're notified. In fact, they have to, the special election, and Jessica can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe the ballots have been sent out, the ballots have been received, and that's part of the process that we're going to do today. But yeah, the property owners will approve this whole process.
Okay. And is there any length of time that the current, let me back up. For this CFD, how many property owners are there?
It can vary. For this particular, for Goodman, I don't know, Jessica, do you have a number on that?
There was only one property
Just
owner.
one, just the Goodman Commerce Center on this particular CFD.
I have one question. Just because maybe I'm just thrown off, I'm kind of not understanding it. It says just qualified landowner votes, and it says 193, and that's on page 332 of the whole packet. It's Exhibit A, page 1. Can you explain that 193? Because I would just understand that as 190, and I know there's not 193 landowners, but I just...
It's from my understanding that there's one vote per acre, so that's where the 193 votes come from.
But in essence, there's still just one landowner.
Yes, that's correct.
Got it. Okay.
So, okay, excellent.
Is there any length of time after a vote that a landowner, can they sell right after a vote like this?
I believe that they can. I'm not totally sure. I'll defer to our city attorney.
Okay.
Yes.
But it's recorded and reflected on title that the CFD is active, correct?
That is correct.
So part of a due diligence, they would understand, and then they should research the title and see what the assessments are.
Okay. Any further questions, discussion at this time? Okay. At this time, well, before I formally open the public hearing on this, are there any property owners or registered voters in the proposed Community Facilities District who wish to file written protests? If so, you need to file them with our city clerk now. Anybody here? Okay. This is a time and place for, so at this time, this is a time and place for the public hearing regarding the proposed formation of Community Facilities District number 2017-1. Will the city clerk please confirm that she has received the following items in regard to this public hearing? A, a proof of publication of the notice of this hearing. B, a certificate regarding registered voters and landowners confirming that, number one, there are no registered voters living within the boundaries of the proposed CFD, and two, there is only one landowner of the land within the boundaries.
Yes, I have received these items.
Excellent. Okay, before hearing from the public, may we please, we already had the staff report. So thank you, Mr. Riley. And let's see here. Questions, comments? Let's see here. All right. Ms. Cooper, are there any members of the public wishing to speak on this item?
No, we have not received any speaker cards.
Anybody? Okay. If there are no comments wishing to speak on this item, I hereby close the public hearing. May I entertain I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the resolution of formation of Community Facilities District. Anybody? Comments,
I
questions?
would move item
discussion?
number 1.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Plott,
Yes.
Councilmember Rush,
Aye.
Councilmember Tassari,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Rigby,
Yes.
Mayor Lorimore.
Aye.
I would move item number 2, adoption of a resolution calling for a special landowner election for the CFD.
Second.
Councilmember Plott,
Yes.
Councilmember Rush,
Aye.
Councilmember Tassari,
Aye.
Mayor Lorimore.
Aye.
I'd move item number 3.
Hold on.
You skipped
hold
me.
on.
Gotta get this order right.
All right, are we okay right now?
No, you skipped me
Okay.
on that vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
But yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rigby.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
I would move item number 3, adoption of a resolution declaring results of the special landowner election and directing recording of the notice of special tax lien.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, for items 8.1 and 8.2, I have to confirm that a ballot was received.
Yes, okay, thank you. So this is the matter of conducting the mail ballot election, will the city clerk please confirm that she has received a completed ballot from the eligible landowners and related waiver and consent authorizing the election to be conducted immediately?
I confirm that I have received one ballot. The ballot received has a total of 193 votes in favor of the formation. That includes a waiver authorizing the election, and that I have prepared my official certificate declaring that the election is closed and the measure has passed.
Okay. We are still on item 8.1. I want to make, yes?
Let's just say I'll second the motion.
Okay. We're still there. Item number 3. Okay, and that is the adopt a resolution for 17XX.
Yes, to declare the results.
To declare. I'm
Yes.
reading item number 3.
Yes.
To declare the results of special landowner election and directing recording of notice of special tax lien. All right.
So moved.
Second.
All right, roll call.
Councilmember Plott,
Yes.
Councilmember Rush,
Aye.
Councilmember Tassari,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Rigby,
Yes.
Mayor Lowermore.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, item number 4, if items 1 to 3 above are approved, adopt ordinance 17, for levying special tax within Community Facilities District for the first reading.
So moved.
Got a first by Councilmember Plott.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Plott,
Yes.
Councilmember Rush,
Aye.
Councilmember Tassari,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rigby,
Yes.
Mayor Lowermore.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. Well, I believe that concludes today's action respecting this specific Community Facilities District. So congratulations, gentlemen. Okay, we are moving on to item 8.2, formation of Community Facilities District number 2017/2. That's the Sendero project. Mr. Riley. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. This is the, as you stated, the formation of Community Facilities District number 2017-2, excuse me, 2, Sendero. This is located at northwest corner of Lamonite and Harrison. And similar to what we just did in developing the CFD, same actions of the adoption of the 3 resolutions, and then if they are approved, then the adoption of an ordinance. And so at this point, unless there's any further questions, I will turn it over to you, Mr. Mayor, and to the Deputy City Clerk for the vote and process.
Okay, thank you for the presentation, Mr. Riley. Are there any questions or comments from council members? Seeing none, Ms. Cooper, are there any members of the public wishing to speak on this item?
No, we have not received any.
Okay. Seeing none, if there are no persons wishing to speak on this item, I hereby, need to open the public hearing. And in that there are no people that are here to speak on this item, I'm going, unless you want to speak on it, anybody? I'm going to close the public hearing. May I entertain a motion to approve the resolution of formation Community Facilities District? Anybody?
Is this similar to the last one? Do you have to receive
It's the same.
everything prior to our vote?
So
there's 3 items that we're voting on. The first one is the resolution for the formation, and then we'll go through the, like we just did before, where the ballot, Mrs. Cooper will open up the ballot, present the results of the election, and then that type of format.
So move on item number 1.
Okay, we have a first.
Second.
We got a second for item number 1. Okay, let me see. here.
Councilmember Plott,
Yes.
Councilmember Rush,
Aye.
Councilmember Tasari,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Rigby,
Yes.
Mayor Lorimore.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, so that one was for the resolution calling special.
Formation.
Okay, that one was calling for the resolution calling for the special landowner. Okay. No.
That was formation of the CFD. Yeah.
My script is confusing me here.
Yeah, just do number 2.
Okay, moving on to item number 2. Do we have and that is adopt resolution number 2017/XX, a resolution calling for a special landowner election for Community Facilities District.
I would so move as previously stated.
Okay, we got a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Plott,
Yes.
Councilmember Rush,
Aye.
Councilmember Tasari,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rigby,
Yes.
Mayor Lorimore.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, moving on to item number 3, adopt resolution number 2017.XX, a resolution declaring results of special landowner election and directing recording of notice of special tax lien.
I can open up the ballot. I can confirm that I have received one ballot. The ballot received has a total of 41 votes in favor of the formation. That includes a waiver authorizing the election, and that I have prepared my official certificate declaring that the election is closed and the measure has passed.
Okay. So the record shows that at least 2/3 of the property owner ballots are in favor of the levy of the special taxes and the establishment of the CFD. We may now proceed with the final actions for the Community Facilities District. May I entertain a motion to adopt the resolution declaring the results of the special landowner election and directing recording of notice of special tax lien?
I would so move.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Councilmember Plott,
Yes.
Councilmember Rush,
Aye.
Councilmember Tasari,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rigby,
I have to abstain because of location of my residence. And I apologize, I have to abstain from the previous 2 votings also. Do we need to re-vote on those? And do I need to go outside?
Yes.
Sorry, guys.
That's
No, this is gonna be amazing. I like this.
You're brand new.
I appreciate the practice.
You get a pass. It's brand new.
Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem Rigby, that wasn't for the previous one, right? 8.1, 8.2 only? Okay, excellent. Thank you. All right.
So, given that, I would move that we reconsider item number 1, which is the adoption of resolution of the formation of the CFD.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and we have a second. Do we have to read these items again?
I don't know if we have to
Okay.
read them, but
Okay, now apparently I do.
okay. Head shaking.
Okay, let's see here. There's a time and place for the public hearing regarding the proposed formation of Community Facilities District number 2017-2. Will the city clerk please confirm that she has received the following items in regard to this public hearing? A proof of publication of the notice of this hearing. B, a certificate regarding registered voters and landowners confirming that, number 1, there is no registered voters living within the boundaries of the proposed CFD, and 2, there is only one landowner of the land within the boundaries.
Yes, I have received these items.
Okay, before hearing from the public, may we please have the staff report on this item? We've received that. Thank you, Mr. Riley. Amazing report. Staff report presented. Are there any questions or comments from the council? Nope.
No, but I think we also need to move to reconsider item number 2, since we voted on that. And if so, I'd make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay.
Councilmember Plott,
Yes.
Councilmember Rush,
Aye.
Councilmember Tassari, Mayor Lorimore.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0 with Mayor Pro Tem Rigby noted as an abstention.
I think it's actually not participating, just to be clear. And then we need to redo it all over again?
Yep. Okay.
I need more coffee.
Anybody wishing to speak on this? Okay, hearing that, let's see here. Ms. Cooper, are there any members of the public wishing to speak on this item?
No, we have not received any.
Okay. If there's nobody willing to speak on this item, I hereby close the public hearing. May I entertain a motion to approve the resolution of formation of Community Facilities District? That's
I would so move.
Second.
okay.
Councilmember Plott,
Yes.
Councilmember Rush,
Aye.
Councilmember Tassari,
Aye.
Mayor Lorimore.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay.
I'd move item number 2, resolution calling for the special landowner election for the CFD.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion on this item? Ms. Cooper, please conduct a roll call vote.
Councilmember Plott,
Yes.
Councilmember Rush,
Aye.
Councilmember Tassari,
Yes.
Mayor Lorimore.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Excellent. Moving next to the matter of conducting the mail ballot election, will the city clerk please confirm that she has received a completed ballot from the eligible landowners and a related waiver and consent authorizing the election to be conducted immediately?
I confirm that I have received one ballot. The ballot received has a total of 41 votes in favor of the formation. That includes a waiver authorizing the election, and that I have prepared my official certificate declaring that the election is closed and the measure has passed.
Okay, the record shows that at least 2/3 of the property owner ballots are in favor of the levy of the special taxes and the establishment of the CFD. We may now proceed with the final actions of the Community Facilities District. May I entertain a motion to adopt the resolution declaring the results of the special landowner election and directing recording of the notice of special tax lien?
I would so move as stated.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Cooper, please conduct a roll call vote.
Councilmember Plott,
Yes.
Councilmember Rush,
Aye.
Councilmember Tassari,
Yes.
Mayor Lorimore.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, one last item of business. May I entertain a motion to introduce waiving the reading and schedule second reading and consideration of adoption of the ordinance of the City of Eastvale levying special tax within Community Facilities District?
So moved.
We have a first.
Second.
We got 2 seconds. Ms. Cooper?
Councilmember Plott,
Yes.
Councilmember Rush,
Aye.
Councilmember Tassari,
Aye.
Mayor Lorimore.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right, that concludes item 8.2. Congratulations, everybody.
Mr. Lee, would you mind getting Mayor Pro Tem Rigby outside? Thanks, Josh.
Are we good? Okay.
All these new names now.
I know. Throws you off.
All right, item 8.3, the Leal Master Plan adoption. And this is, we're going to have a presentation on this by Eric Norris, our planning director. Mr. Norris.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. While we get the show up and going. There we go. So, Mayor and Council, this is going to be a presentation similar to the one you received a few weeks ago. We have a lot of stuff on the agenda, so I'll try and go through this fairly quickly, but if at any point you'd like me to slow down and explain something in more detail, I'll be happy to do that. So what we're going to do tonight is again, give a brief review of the planning process and talk about what's in the Leal Master Plan, and then we'll consider the adoption of the master plan as recommended by the Planning Commission. And that's where the show will be a little bit different than last time, because we're going to get more into kind of the paperwork aspects of what has to happen tonight. So the Leo Master Plan is a plan to develop the approximately 160-acre Leo property, show you where that is in a second, as a major mixed-use retail, office, housing, and civic development. This is something that's been envisioned since the creation of the first Eastville General Plan in 2012. We've been working on this since, well, for the past 4 years, so since 2013. So there are a few things on your agenda tonight. There's an environmental component. As with any large project like this, we had to do a comprehensive environmental impact report, so that's on your agenda tonight. There is a general plan amendment, which is before you, and that amends the general plan to add a policy about the Leo property and amend the land use plan to show that the Leo property is now governed by that policy. There is a zoning code amendment to add a new chapter called Master Plans. Is what we've created here is not quite a specific plan. We wanted to create our own kind of planning document, so that's what that does. That amendment also amends the zoning map to show that the Leo property is now governed by the Leo Master Plan. And finally, there's the adoption of the Master Plan itself. So again, the property that we're talking about is 160 acres, more or less, as we call it, the corner of Main and Main. It's the corner of Limonite and Hamner. So the streets bounding the property on the south is Limonite, on the east is Hamner, 58th on the north, and Scholar on the west. Another view here of the property, and again, you see off in the background there, that's 58th Street and Scholar. And if you look closely down in the lower corner here, you'll see cows. This is one of the last 2 remaining dairies in Eastvale. So this one and the Dite Dairy are the last holdouts of the former dairy history of Eastvale. And then just one last view here, and again in the background here, that's 58th Street. And right below that line, you can see some of the residences that are out there. Some of the family still lives on the property. So again, just a real brief history of the master plan. As I mentioned, back in 2013, the City Council directed staff to prepare a master plan. So we did that, working through 2013 and 2014. We had public outreach. We had a very successful social media outreach, got tremendous response on that with lots of ideas about what should be included in the plan, what the purpose of this whole area should be. We held workshops with the Planning Commission and the City Council. In 2014 and 2015, we wrote the master plan. We wrote the environmental impact report, circulated that for public review. And then in September of that year, we went to the Planning Commission with that whole package, presented it to them, and they came out of their considerations recommending approval of the master plan by the City Council. Now, in the intervening years, the property owner has been working with a number of developers. I know staff, city manager, myself, other staff have met with many potential parties who are interested in developing the property. As of now, as we discussed at the last presentation on this, they're in basically the final stages of negotiation. So back in October, the City Councils said, okay, now's the time, and asked staff to bring this to you for consideration, which is what we're doing tonight. So I'll talk a little bit about the master plan. As with the last presentation, I'm not going to get way down in the weeds, but I'll give you kind of an overview of what's in the document. In a nutshell, the master plan does a few things. It defines the level of quality of development that we want here. It's always been envisioned that this would be a high-class, regional scale project that will be on par with Victoria Gardens, the Shops of Chino Hills, other projects of that type. So the master plan goes into a lot of detail. I'll show you briefly how it does that in defining what that level of quality is. Provides a land use program, which is basically a menu of land uses from which to choose, but not yet a map. That was something that the council and the Planning Commission and the property owner didn't want us to do. So we're waiting for a developer to be on hand and use that land use program then now to develop a more detailed map of what goes where and exact amounts of different land uses. To do that, the master plan establishes a staged planning process. The master plan itself is basically stage or step one. Step two is when we get all those detailed plans. We get the detailed land use plan, architectural guidelines, landscape guidelines. That's when we really get an idea of what the project is going to look and feel like. And then finally, there's a phasing plan to ensure that the infrastructure that's important to the city and to the development of the project and the lifestyle center are built. What we wanted to make sure was that the lifestyle center, which is really the key component of this, gets built. So we wanted to, so there's a phasing program, I'll talk in a little bit more detail about that, to make sure that we don't end up with everything else getting built around that, and we don't get that. But I'll give you a little bit more detail on that. So level of quality is the first item, and as I mentioned, we used a lot of imagery in the plan of other projects that we wanted to emulate, and there are chapters, or basically an entire chapter, that talks about a lot of different aspects of what we're talking about in terms of quality. We don't need to go into detail, but if you read through the plan, you'll see a lot of images. We thought that was the best way to really just say, we want something this nice. We're not defining an architectural style. We're not saying, should it be palm trees or pine trees, but if you do it to this level of quality, this is what we're looking for. The land use program, as I mentioned, is basically a menu of land uses. It establishes a range of uses that can happen on the property. And as I mentioned, the ultimate developer, working with the city, is going to come up with the actual mix of land uses and put those on a map and bring those back to the city for approval. Going through those briefly, first of all, the Lifestyle Center. And you'll see on some of these there are ranges. For instance, the Lifestyle Center has to be at least 325,000 square feet, can be up to 1.3 million of mixed-use retail. And these land use ranges, by the way, were used in the environmental document so that whatever we choose, as long as it's within those ranges, we have an environmental document that examines that. Next is general commercial of up to 225,000 square feet. We've already landed Costco, but this leaves open the door to land another large retailer like that. We set aside up to 920,000 square feet of office or medical uses, including a hospital. The plan envisions up to 450 hotel rooms, which could be one large hotel or several smaller hotels. It allows a civic center. It doesn't require it, but that's one of the land uses that could occur here. And given that this is really going to be the downtown of Eastvale in the long term, this is an area that you may want to consider for a future city hall. There are two different categories of residential. One is what we call medium density, of 14 to 21 units per acre. The other is high density residential. And this again, and this is at a higher density of starting at 22 per acre. This is an important category for us because these dwelling units help us meet our state mandated housing requirements for high density housing. So this is one where you do see minimum and maximum numbers. The plan ultimately has to provide for at least 500 of these units, but no more than 660. And then, then the plan also envisions other major community features, a major entry feature down at that major corner of Hamner and Limonite, open space parks, etc. The idea is that all of these features will link together the different land uses so that if you live and work in this area, you'll have pathways and parkways, etc. to travel on. So the staged processing and phasing, as I mentioned, stage one is the master plan itself. In stage two, we get the land use plan, which is the map that shows where things go and what acreage of each. We get the architecture. Here's where we start, as I said, getting a sense for if there's an architectural style that's going to be used through here. This is where we'll see that. We get development criteria and guidelines that go along with their proposal and will become part of the plan. We get infrastructure plans. Basically, once we have that land use map, we'll know where the roadways are going inside it. That allows us to start planning the infrastructure, which basically goes in the roadways. We can also size those facilities in more detail now that we know exactly what they're serving. Then stage 3 is development plans, and that's our standard process where when you know exactly what building you're going to propose, you bring that to us, that'll go to the Planning Commission, and then finally building permits. So the phasing in summary rolls out like this. Phase 1 can be up to 40 acres of development other than the Lifestyle Center. Now, if they wanted to build the Lifestyle Center first, that's fine. If they don't want to build that first, you can build up to 40 acres of other stuff. And at that point, the Lifestyle Center has to get built. In phase 1, we also get the perimeter roadways. So the widening of all those major roadways around the perimeter happens in phase 1. After that's done, the Lifestyle Center has to get built, or at least 325,000 square feet of it has to get built. So if they were proposing, say, 500,000 square feet, they could build a portion of it, but at least this much has to get built. And then phase 3, everything else. So, and again, this is really intended to, first of all, give them some development to build cash flow. We understand that the retail probably, or the Lifestyle Center probably won't be the first thing that happens. So the other 40 acres allow them to start development, get some cash flow, and then roll into the Lifestyle Center part. So it benefits the property owner and it benefits us because we're assured that we're going to get the Lifestyle Center. So I mentioned we did a comprehensive environmental impact report. It looked at 13 different issues up on the screen. I won't mention them all. I will talk briefly, though, about the 3 that are in bold: transportation, air quality, and noise. Those are the impacts where we determined through that EIR that there would be significant and unavoidable impacts. So we'll go into a little bit more detail on those. On all the others, there's either no impact or we can reduce those to a level of less than significant with mitigation measures. Because we have unavoidable impacts, there is a statement of overriding considerations. What that does, and that's something that's in state law, is it allows the city council to say that, and their findings written out in detail in that document, much more detailed than here, that even though there are impacts that will happen from the project that can't be avoided, the benefits of the project outweigh the impacts. Those are the overriding considerations, the benefits of the project. So again, those unavoidable impacts are traffic, and there are cumulative impacts to 9 roadway segments. And basically, a cumulative impact means that it's traffic from this added to all the other traffic already on the road and other future traffic being generated by other things in the vicinity and the region. There are air quality impacts both during construction and during the long-term operation, and there are noise impacts. So the project benefits, and I won't go into all of these, but again, the findings go into more detail about the benefits that the project will have, providing a town center, a mix of uses, the lifestyle retail center, a high-quality design that the project will enable, a compact form of development, safe and entertaining gathering spaces, a comprehensive planning process opposed to the piecemeal development of the site that might happen otherwise if only pieces of it were developed at a time without consideration of the entire project. It'll generate substantial property and sales tax revenue, both through the residential and through the future retail sales that'll happen in the Lifestyle Center. Provides employment opportunities, infrastructure, medium and in particular high-density housing opportunities, and as I mentioned, the design of the project will provide for access for pedestrians, bicycles, and automobiles throughout the site. So the project is ready for your consideration tonight. As I mentioned, the Planning Commission recommended approval by the City Council. The environmental impact report is ready to certify. We've done all the noticing, responded to all the comments that came in, provided notice to people who commented on the document. The master plan and all the documents have been reviewed by legal counsel, and so we have legal counsel's blessing that everything is ready to go. So should you wish to approve the project, there are basically 4 things to do. And if I go to my notes here to help me guide you through the process. So looking in your package, first of all, there is a resolution to certify the environmental impact report and adopt a statement of overriding considerations. That is attachment D, like in David, to your staff report. You need to do that first. The second item is to adopt a resolution amending the general plan, both the text and the map. That's attachment E1 to your staff report. The third step is to approve an ordinance adding master plans, that master plan chapter, to the zoning code. That ordinance is attachment F1 to your staff report. And finally, there's a separate ordinance adopting the master plan and changing the zoning for the property to Leo master plan, and that's attachment G1. So that's the end of my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have about the master plan itself. We also have in the audience tonight Mark Teague, who is the CEQA lead on the preparation of the EIR. He's here to answer any questions. And with that, I'll hand it back to the mayor.
Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Norris. Do we have any questions for? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for my own understanding, so when the first 40 acres is developed, all road improvements will be part of that initial project, which would, or the initial 40-acre project, which would, so that Schleisman and Limonite, or not Schleisman, I'm sorry, Limonite and Hamner, all of that would be improved.
That's required. That's part of the plan.
Thank you.
Any other questions at this time?
You just made me think of another question.
Mr. Rush.
Well, I'll start with my original one, and maybe if Mark wants to come up here while I speak. We identified when the EIR was circulated, gone through all the response to comments and everything. Prior to this, did we advertise for this hearing tonight?
Yes, we did.
Okay, so it wasn't continuous. So we advertised this hearing. Did we provide notice to all of the respondents that had previously responded?
Yes.
And did we get any comments, letters?
No, sir.
Anything? Okay, that's good. I know there's not a specific rule, and Eric and I had talked about this at a previous meeting, just for your information, Mark. But I want to make sure we're on solid ground, and maybe just to be a little repetitive, speak something into the record with respect to the over 2 years that has been between the EIR circulation and now. I mean, usually the EIR is circulated and it's adopted fairly shortly after that. I'm assuming we wouldn't be here with a recommendation if we were good, but can you give us just a little bit of assurance maybe of, change conditions or things of that nature, and that we're still good on the circulation aspect of it? I like your tie, by the way.
Thank you very much, Chair Garcia. Council, members of the staff, and public, my name is Mark Teague. I'm here tonight as the author of the primary author of the EIR. CEQA allows us to look at documents over time before they're certified. There's a provision of health and environmental quality act, that is section 15162, that has a series of questions that we go through before we certify a document where things might have changed over time has gone on. Those have substantial changes occurred in the environment that would lead us to believe that the analysis of the EIR is no longer accurate, or whether it was mitigation that may have been applied that either isn't effective now or will be effective in the future. Those types of things to see whether the analysis has been really done. As the councilman correctly points out, there's no time limit on these things. There's kind of a rule of thumb that after a while things get stale. What was fortunate with this particular project was the Dominion Center, which is probably the largest single thing that happened in Eastville in terms of the development that would affect things like traffic and air quality, was going on at the time the EIR was being drafted. Much of the information that informed the traffic analysis and the conclusions in the EIR were based in part on the Goodman Commerce piece, and also in part on the Walmart project that was also being initiated at that time. Those things were assumed when we went through the analysis. We also know that there's another set of analyses that will occur when the phase 2 part of this project presents itself.
Bless you.
CEQA says we only need to do the analysis to the level of the project information that we possess. At this time, we have a bunch of really pretty pictures, some neat policy statements, but nothing we can really sink our teeth into to say, I want you to fix this, this needs to go in now. Those types of decisions will be made when you get that first development plan, as Eric points out, the stage 2. That's a bright line for me to be able to say, okay, at that point, we'll revisit the impacts, we have something specific to attach them to, and we deal with that stage. And lastly, we believed this project was going to come forward about 6 months ago and went through with legal counsel and with staff to see whether we thought anything substantive had occurred. And we went through that analysis internally. We asked a bunch of questions. We went through and tried to figure out whether anything had changed substantially. It came to the conclusion that no, the projects that were large enough to have been considered in this particular document had already been evaluated, and we didn't need to change anything moving forward. So it's our recommendation that the mitigation measures that you have in here and the plan that you have in here are in fact still adequate for what you want us to do. Again, because we have these other safeguards in place.
Thank you. I appreciate your thorough and detailed statement. So I think that puts my mind at ease. I don't have any additional questions per se, but going off of Councilmember Tessari's comments with the road infrastructure, I know we have talked kind of in conjunction with this project and then just in general with development of the fairly significant, I don't want to use that word, the fairly substantial amount of electrical infrastructure that's necessary. Is that going to be all put in as part of the first phase, bringing dry utilities to this site for energization?
Well, the utilities, yeah, the utilities exist at the edges of the site, so it's more an issue of bringing them into the interior. What I think we'll be looking at, as I mentioned, once the land use plan gels and the roadways are set, then we start sizing the infrastructure inside there. I think we'll be working with Public Works to develop a plan to probably phase the infrastructure inside it to meet the needs of development. We're not going to make them install every bit of infrastructure inside the entire project, so we can phase that. But, you know, for instance, if we decide we need a 12-inch water main down Leal Way, then we'll make them install a 12-inch, not the 2-inch that they might be able to use for that first increment. So I imagine we'll phase it, but it will go in at its ultimate size.
Yeah, the infrastructure phasing financing is going to be crucial. The County of Riverside just adopted some updated language to their phasing map. We might want to take a look at that and see if there's any applicability for projects here. I mean, really the only project I think it would be applicable is this. It allows some additional flexibility for things of that nature. So that's their new Schedule J map.
Okay.
They just adopted a couple weeks ago. Other than that, I think it's a great plan. If you see in the staff report, I think we've invested, as far as hard dollars, $285,000. The blood, sweat, tears, late nights, and all the machinations are well above that. In my opinion, it's money well spent. I don't know if we've done an official valuation on this, but this, you know, in contrast to the Goodman Commerce Center, is probably going to be the biggest, if not the second biggest, or at least on par, development project that we will ever do, because we're getting pretty built out here. I'd like to thank Mr. Leo, who's in the audience, sitting in the back trying to hide there, John and his family, and your Uncle Brad, who is a friend of all of ours, for sticking it out through this time frame, and like I said, the late nights and the sometimes heated conversations that we had to get to this point, the public-private partnership that we've had with his family. I think this is just the beginning, and we're looking forward to an exciting project. I'm happy to recommend approval of the recommendations when it's appropriate.
We're not quite there yet.
I know.
'Cause we do have to have a public hearing. So at this time, I'm going to open the public hearing. Ms. Cooper, have we received any public comments?
We have not.
Does anybody want to talk about this? Okay. Hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. I'm turning to you gentlemen. Any further discussion on this?
John, you want to say anything? No? You don't have to. I'm just...
Well, I have a question for you.
Okay.
So if you want to come up, please. while you're coming up, I just have a question just to piggyback off of Councilmember Rush's comments, just to make sure, Eric, that all the utilities are going to be are at the property or brought to the property before the exterior infrastructure is done, so that we aren't having to pull up roads such as Limonite and Hamner once we start that project.
Yeah, we'll definitely confirm that. I mean, Joe's department is on top of those issues. Our general understanding is that everything is available at the edges and just needs to be extended in, but we'll nail all that stuff down in stage 2.
Okay, thank you. And thank you again for being here. Just once again for the public's information, this is not just a small project. This is a huge project, and this is a project that we're looking at from a city standpoint to make a destination place. You ask people where Eastville is, and people are kind of like, what city? And we hope that this helps with our, when you say Eastville, people are going to know, oh yeah, I'm always there, and we're hoping that this project helps with that. The one question that I have for you, Mr. Leal, is going back to the master plan, as you have more recently discussed with developers, have you seen any issues that they have discussed with you regarding the master plan, regarding the areas that we are requiring?
You guys can hear me? You know what, to this point, I think it's more of just the flexibility built into it. I think folks I've talked to are very much in favor of what's in the plan today.
Okay.
Of course, maybe some conditions in terms of some slight modifications. But again, pretty much everything that's in there is things are being discussed today. So really no concerns.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions at this time? Okay, so thank you, Mr. Lill. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
I'll just comment, yeah, thanks for the opportunity and looking forward to getting this going. So thank you guys.
Thank you. All right. So, Eric, I want to make sure you're talking that we need to certify the project's final environmental impact report first?
Yes, sir. Your first motion would be to adopt a resolution certifying the final environmental impact report and adopting a statement of overriding considerations.
Mr. Mayor, did we close the public hearing, correct?
Not yet, but we are. We did. Yes, we did close the public hearing. Absolutely. We have done that. So, open, and we've closed. We turn to the council for discussion. All right, so at this time, I'd like to solicit a motion on the certification of the project's final environmental impact report, and this is in relation to item 8.3, the Leal Master Plan adoption.
You go ahead.
I would second that.
Okay, and that is, does that include the do we need to do
I think we need those separately.
them together or separately, the adoption of the statement of overriding?
That's in the same resolution. It's the same motion.
It's in the same, okay.
So I
So
would
we have a
second item
first,
1 and 2.
I'll second.
and that is adopting a statement of overriding consideration for the project's significant but avoidable environmental impacts. So we have a first and we have a second. May we,
I think Adam was the first.
yeah. May we have
Yeah, I'll make the motion just for
Okay.
clarity.
I'll make the second.
Councilmember Rush, Councilmember Plott, okay. Ms. Cooper, may we have a roll call on that?
Councilmember Plott,
Yes.
Councilmember Rush,
Aye.
Councilmember Tassari,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rigby,
Yes.
Mayor Lorimore.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, this is the recommendation from staff, and the Planning Commission recommended the City Council take the following actions. Number 1, amend the land use chapter of the Eastvale General Plan to incorporate the Leal Master Plan, including amending land use policies and land use map. Number 2, amend the Eastvale zoning code to add a chapter master plans. Number 3, adopt the Leal Master Plan. Number 4, amend the zoning map to rezone the Leal Master Plan area to the Leal Master Plan. We do all of that at once?
No, sir. There are
No,
3 different
of course
items there. The first item would be adopting a resolution amending the general plan as noted in the staff report.
Okay. All right, so I am soliciting a motion to amend the land use chapter of the Eastvale General Plan to incorporate the Leal Master Plan, including amending land use policies and land use map.
I'd so move.
Second.
First from Councilmember Rush, a second from Councilmember Plott. Ms. Cooper, roll call, please.
Councilmember Plott,
Yes.
Councilmember Rush,
Aye.
Councilmember Tassari,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rigby,
Yes.
Mayor Lorimore.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, your next item is to introduce for first reading an ordinance to add master plans to the Eastvale zoning code. That's a new chapter of the zoning code.
Okay, master plans. And that would be a standalone? at this
Yes.
time? Okay. So I'm soliciting a motion to amend the Eastvale zoning code to add chapter master plans.
And so move.
Second.
Who was the second? All right, we have a first from Councilmember Rush, second from Councilmember Tesseri. Ms. Cooper?
Councilmember Plott,
Yes.
Councilmember Rush,
Aye.
Councilmember Tassari,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rigby,
Yes.
Mayor Lorimore.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
And this is item number 3, adopt the Leo Master Plan. Is that correct, Mr. Norris?
Yes, sir. Your final action would be to introduce for first reading an ordinance adopting the Leo Master Plan pursuant to the chapter that we've just added and changing the zoning for the property to Leo Master Plan.
Exactly what you said.
And so move.
For a second. Okay. We have lots of seconds. Ms. Cooper?
Councilmember Plott,
Yes.
Councilmember Rush,
Aye.
Councilmember Tassari,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rigby,
Yes.
Mayor Lorimore.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right. Congratulations. All right. That concludes. We're going to take a small break. I think we've been at this a while. Thank you all for working through this with us tonight. We're going to take a short 5-minute break. A little bit longer than 5 minutes. Thank you all for those that stuck around. We're going to be moving on to City Council business items 9.1 through 9.3. 9.1 is the temporary holiday suspension of street sweeping enforcement, presented by I'm sorry, my brain isn't working right now. City Manager Ms. Neeson.
Thank you, Mayor Lorimer and Mayor Pro Tem Rigby, council members. I'll make it quick. As you may know, we have a large slurry seal project going on throughout the city. And there's definitely been some parking impacts and a significant amount of coordination with our street sweeping providers, our trash haulers. But this has been a massive slurry seal and grind and overlay project. Being that we are entering the holiday season and there's a lot of visitors that come to town, I am asking for council to consider a temporary suspension of street sweeping enforcement in the city of Eastvale from Monday, December 18th, 2017 through Monday, January 1st, 2018. Of course, all other parking violations will still be enforced. That means, for example, red curbs, blocking cluster mailboxes, handicap parking without a placard, blocking fire hydrants, etc. Everything else, all the other standard parking violations would still apply, but we would not be enforcing street sweeping citations to accommodate out-of-town visitors during the holiday seasons and to allow for some extra parking locations during slurry seal projects. So this is, again, just a temporary, at this time it's just for this year. This is something that would affect 6 days of street sweeping enforcement.
Okay. Ms. Cooper, do we have any public comments on this?
No, we have not received any.
Okay, excellent. Council, do you have any questions?
I just have one question, not to be the negative person here, and I'm totally fine with the temporary rescission, but Joe, have you looked at this? Are we getting into any NPDES issues? Because I know street sweeping is part of our municipal stormwater enforcement.
If I may, Councilmember Rush, the street sweeping would still take effect. There's just not going to be enforcement of the parking.
All right, that's fine.
So the street sweeping would still go on as usual.
I'd move approval.
I see a hand up from
couple
Councilmember
questions.
Tesseri.
Okay.
Go ahead, Councilman, or Mayor Pro Tem. Okay. My thing, I would ask that we also include the enforcement for signage that says parking between certain hours, because what's happening is the homes that are having the slurry seal done are impacted. You can't use your garage or your driveway, and you're forced to park if you need to use your vehicle during the day, and it could be any hours. You don't know when you might need it, so those cars might need to be parked on an adjacent street where there's no parking during, say, school hours.
I will defer to our city engineer, Joe Inderwan, but I believe, for example, if you're referring to the neighborhood across the street from Eleanor Roosevelt High School, we could potentially bag the signs to coordinate with the street sweeping schedule. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, but I'll let Joe take that.
Councilmember Tosari.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, sir. Actually, we have made some adjustment due to the slurry seal issues, and we have communicated with our officers, street sweeping officers, to not cite during the slurry seal. That is exactly for that reason. If my street is slurry today, I have to park around the corner, and there's a sweeping there, am I going to get a ticket or not? That kind of questions, and we make adjustments accordingly already. Sir.
Right, yeah, and my only reason is it's not directed specifically at sweeping. If there's a sign that says you can't park there between 8 a.m. and 3 p.m., but you're going to need your car during the lunch hour or something.
Yeah.
it's
That has
gonna
been
have to
made,
be parked
yeah.
somewhere.
We made some adjustment on that one,
Yeah,
too.
okay. Just as long, it can be appealed. So if there isn't a site, I just want it out, to be available so that, should that happen, hopefully we won't run into the situation, but.
Yeah, we try to be proactive before it gets an appeal because otherwise you're going to complain first, and we try to.
I'm going to call the mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Do we typically cite on holidays for street sweeping, or is that?
There are observed holidays for street sweeping in which there is no street sweeper and there is no enforcement. Those days are published on the city's website.
Okay.
For example, Christmas Day, New Year's Day, there is no street sweeping and there is no enforcement already on observed holidays.
So my only concern with this is I know that we already get residents that get confused and concerned about parking and get parking tickets. My only concern is this going to confuse them even more? Are they going to come January 2nd and say, oh, I thought it was, my kid's still off school, I thought it was the whole time, or I just don't want to see them look for any excuse to come and argue a ticket that they get after that, or I thought it was still part of the suspension time or whatever that is. I just don't know if there's a way that we can just, I don't know. I just don't want to confuse the residents to thinking that there's a longer period.
I certainly understand your concern, sir. That's why I put some specific dates in there. I'm not sure how else to work around that other than not doing it and still attempting to enforce as best we can while accommodating the slurry seal schedule, which means that everyone that complains during this time of year that there's not sufficient parking, street parking for their holiday visitors are still going to get a ticket.
Would this be something that would be published
Yes, sir.
and advertised and?
I would prefer to do it in that method, to make our citizens aware.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. At this time, I'd like to solicit a motion for the approval of the temporary suspension of street sweeping parking enforcement from Monday, December 18th, 2017 through Monday, January 1st, 2018.
So moved. Second.
We got a first and a second. All right, Ms. Cooper.
Councilmember Plott,
Yes.
Councilmember Rush,
Aye.
Councilmember Tessari,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Rigby,
Yes.
Mayor Lorimore.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, excellent. Moving on to item 9.2, and this is an amendment to the agreement for law enforcement services between the City of Eastvale and the County of Riverside on behalf of the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. Ms. Neeson.
Good evening, Mayor Lorimore, Mayor Pro Tem Rigby. I'm sorry, that's going to take me a little time to get the hang of that, and council members. I'm going to give a brief introduction, but I am going to turn this over to Captain Hedge to provide the PowerPoint. So we're kind of doing this in tandem. If you recall, during the budget workshops, we had extensive discussion about public safety staffing levels. And during the building of our current budget, the determination of council, our recommendation was to keep the service levels at standard and not implement any changes or increase in staffing at the time, and to revisit it as we approach a mid-year budget. That mid-year budget would technically be in January. I'm asking that the council consider this item in advance of January, because there are some timetables, time constraints that are rather important. For the citizens that are still here, just to give you a little bit of background, we are a contract city. We do not have our own PD per se, but we do contract for services through Riverside County Sheriff's Department, and they do act as our official police department. We currently do have an agreement that's automatically renews for a 5-year period based on the level of service as designated in the agreement. Any change to that agreement or request for change in increased staffing or decrease in staffing, it does require an amendment to our contract, and that amendment would have to be authorized by the Eastvale City Council, and then that contract would have to go to the County Board of Supervisors for their ratification before any increase or decrease in services would be made by the Sheriff's Department. At this time, it's important to note the Sheriff's Department doesn't keep staff on the shelf to plug and play. So what we're doing right now is increasing staffing through overtime during the holiday season. It's been very fruitful, but what I heard during the budget season from council was that you would like to see more staffing, and therefore I'm asking for your consideration at this time. Per council request, we did take this to the Public Safety Commission on November 28th. It was pulled from our original City Council agenda and put before the Public Safety Commission. There was a lot of deliberation, a lot of discussion, and the commissioners voted 4-1 in favor of increasing the contract staff hours by 10 additional hours, and they did also request adding an additional dedicated motor officer position. Some important things to note before I turn this over to Captain Hedge to give you an overall presentation is that the Sheriff's Department only does a few academies per year. So while we would not be getting a brand new officer, we are required to backfill that position because, as I said, they don't keep motor officers on a shelf to plug and play. We would be responsible for putting someone through the academy and backfilling any position that comes over to the City of Eastvale as a dedicated or increased staffing. We missed the academy recently. That was in October. The next academy is in February. If we miss the February academy, we're looking at potentially another 6 months past that. And the Sheriff's Department has had a significant amount of attrition over the last year. They've lost about 500 patrol staff in, well, maybe not the last year, but the last 2 years. And so there is a county-wide shortage of staffing, and we have been advised by the Sheriff's Department that any changes in our staffing, any increase in staffing could take up to 1 year to fill. So if there is any desire from the council to make a change, I really want to try to hit the February Academy. And some other important things that I do think are critical to take into consideration as this will kind of tie into your question about response times. At a recent city manager contract city meeting, one of the biggest drains on law enforcement service and response times is still alarms, false alarms. That's the #1 issue in the county. They advise the city managers that the county may be adopting an alarm ordinance, that they're not going to force or dictate to the individual cities what they would have to adopt, but they would assist with the implementation and data, but that is something that they are encouraging the individual contract cities to look into, because that is a drain on our resources. With that, I'm going to kind of turn this over to Captain Hedge and for the PowerPoint presentation, and then I'll kind of jump in as questions arise.
Michelle, can you hand me the remote?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members, City Council, and staff. Since the city's incorporation in 2010, the city and the Sheriff's Department have regularly evaluated law enforcement services and the effects and the needs for the public. We have always strived to provide for the safest community, for the residents, and for the visitors themselves. As a result, needed services have increased over the years based on various reasons. This has included an increase in city population, increase in visitors who patron our city, and increased reported crimes, increased traffic collisions, and community involvement. This presentation will include a brief overview of current police staffing, overall statistics and response, and several alternatives for increased police staffing. Our contracted staffing is basically separated into two categories. One is patrol, fully supported contract hours, and the other is dedicated positions. Although calculated differently, the cost for a patrol deputy and the cost for a dedicated deputy are the same annually, and allows for the county to recover all compensated hours for that position. Patrol staffing hours are calculated using the fully supported patrol baseline rate, which is currently $168 per hour. This rate includes supplies, services for patrol deputies, their direct support, which includes percentages of lieutenants, sergeant investigators, their indirect support, which is the sheriff's service officers and clerical support, dispatch, information services bureau, and accounting and finance. Patrol hours, or also called baseline rate, is billed by productive 1,780 hours, meaning this is the actual hours that a deputy works or provides service on an annual basis. This takes into consideration for any absences, such as vacation, sick time. The average is about 1,780 hours that an average patrol deputy works throughout the year. This is used for the patrol rate, in which different deputies may be providing contract services throughout the year. So if during that time period that a deputy's off for vacation or sick time or any other leave, that deputy is replaced. So that incorporates the hundreds of hours that we would need to fill that. These patrol services are contracted and billed by hours, not by the position or the number of deputies that we have. The city currently contracts for 90 patrol hours, which equates to about 18 patrol deputies who are assigned patrol covering 24 hours a day. If a deputy is off, like I explained, for any reason, sick, if they're on vacation, if they're on training, We will staff the contracted hours to fulfill the 90 hours, so we will backfill that position for the mandated 90 hours that we have to cover. Currently, the police department staffs 3 10-hour shifts with the fully supported patrol deputies. This equates to about 9 deputies per day. We usually have 3 deputies per shift. However, looking at statistics, that has varied, especially throughout the summer, where we felt we needed to move another deputy, say as an example, from day shift to a swing shift, because that's where the number of calls were increasing, or from graveyard to swing shift. So there has been movement from time to time, depending on the statistics that we see. Dedicated positions, which are the other positions I had mentioned, are positions such as motor officers or other personnel assigned full-time to provide specific service to the city, and they are billed under the 20/80 hours calculation, and that rate is currently $144.16 per hour. For lack of a better term, the dedicated position is a purchase position. In other words, that's not in the basic rate, but if you identify a special need for specific deputies, as an example, our special enforcement team deputies, our dedicated traffic deputies, these are all within the dedicated positions. The contract pays for all compensated hours associated with dedicated personnel, whether they report for work, use sick time, or vacation time. They are not backfilled for their absences, and these positions are specifically dedicated to the city with specific deputies. Unlike patrol, to where if a deputy calls off sick, we might pull a deputy that maybe is typically working in another area to backfill for those hours. The dedicated positions, nobody backfills them. Those specific deputies are dedicated to the city. In addition to the 90 fully supported patrol hours, the city contracts for 7 dedicated positions who are assigned only to the city, which is what we currently have. This includes 2 deputies assigned to the special enforcement team who provide community-oriented policing and targeted enforcement, 3 deputies assigned to the traffic bureau, 2 of which are traffic officers who patrol in vehicles, and 1 is our motor officer, and 2 community service officers assigned to the traffic bureau who are trained to conduct advanced traffic collision investigations, enforce parking violations, which includes street sweeping enforcement. This helps alleviate some of the tasks that the sworn deputies will not have to do, so they can be more proactive on the street and actually do proactive enforcement for traffic. This slide represents the increase in population and how it has correlated with the yearly increase in calls for police service, along with the police and fiscal year police budget. As you can see from 2015 and 2016, calls increased just under 4%, from 60,881 to 63,214, while calls for service increased over 17%, from 26,556 to 31,234. We project that the 2017 calls for service will continue to increase. Based on the current numbers, probably an additional 3% over 2016. However, this is only a projection based on the current numbers that we have. The police budget increases on the right were mostly related to the increased service rates for the Sheriff's Department over the years.
Captain, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can I
Yes.
stop you real quick? Do you feel that the call for service increase is directly related to population, or are there any other factors there that you think contribute to that?
I believe there's several factors. One is the increased population, but I believe with the increase in the businesses in the location, which draws additional traffic and additional people into the community, I believe that has an effect. I believe that the fact, and I have it I think somewhere else in the presentation, I believe the fact with AB 109 and all these legislations that have basically decreased penalties and let inmates out of jail a lot sooner than they should have been let out. I think that has a lot to do with it. So I think there's a lot of variables that have to do with that increase.
Thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
In addition, Unified Crime Reporting, Part 1 crimes, UCR, have continued to decrease from a total of 945 reported crimes in 2015 to 1,347 in 2016. So between 2015 and 2016, it was about a 42% increase. As of September, year to date, this year, we had about 1,073 UCR reported crimes, Part 1 crimes, which is a 13% increase from the 944 reported year to date in 2016. Part 1 crimes are specific crimes. It's not all crimes that occur in the community, but they're the more high profile, the more serious crimes that are reported to the FBI for statistical purposes. This includes violent crimes such as homicides, robberies, and assaults, and property crimes such as burglaries, larceny, and motor vehicle theft. And like I had explained a minute ago, I really believe there's a direct correlation between the noticeable increase in crime, not only in this city, but in a lot of the communities throughout the nation, as a result of Proposition 47, AB 109, and the reduced penalties and sentencing for what used to be serious crimes and now aren't considered serious crimes. Patrol response times have slightly varied since 2015. However, since 2015, they've remained pretty much the same. Again, with the increased population and increased traffic throughout the city, traffic collisions have increased from 779 in 2015 to 829 in 2016, a 6.4% increase. Year to date, we've had 609 collisions and project a slight decrease from the previous year. If the stats remain the same, might end up around 710, but again, that's just based on the current trends that we see. As you can see, enforcement has increased with 1,041 citations being issued in 2015 and almost a 300% increase in 2017 with 4,004 citations being issued. I attribute this to our motor officer who has positively impacted our traffic citations and our collisions since his hire in late 2015. Now I'd like to begin discussing some of the various staffing alternatives to increase police productivity. The first alternative would be to increase patrol hours from 90 hours per day to 100 hours per day. This would increase the budget by about just under $615,000 and would equate to about 2 additional deputies for 7-day-a-week coverage. The benefits for additional 10 hours would include additional field resource, reduced response times, higher visibility, lower crime, and increased community involvement. The second alternative would be to increase our motor position from 1 position to 2 dedicated motor positions. This would increase the budget by about a little over $356,000 for the first year. This would include the purchase of a fully equipped law enforcement motorcycle, reoccurring costs such as fuel and vehicle maintenance, and one-time purchases such as safety equipment, training, electronic citation equipment, and whatever the motor position would need. After the first year, the basic cost would be just a recurring cost for the deputy and equipment such as fuel, that type of thing, which would be about $307,000. And the benefits for an additional motor would be an additional field resource, not only for traffic, but if a major incident happens, having the extra deputy out in the field. Increased traffic enforcement, reduced traffic collisions, higher visibility, and increased community involvement and public relations. The third alternative would be adding an additional dedicated sworn traffic officer. This would be a deputy enforcing traffic violations in a black and white patrol vehicle. We currently have 2 sworn traffic officers assigned to the Traffic Bureau who are dedicated to the community. And although they enforce traffic violations, spend a significant amount of time responding to and conducting traffic collision investigations as part of their responsibilities. So this alternative would increase the police budget by about just under $300,000, and with about $307,000 with increased mileage. So the cost for the actual motor deputy and a deputy in a vehicle are relatively the same, with the exception there's a little bit of increase for the motor deputy who gets an extra incentive pay. Or, I don't know the exact term, or hazard pay for riding a motor, which is like $1 or something an hour, which really isn't real significant. The benefits of having a sworn traffic officer are reduced startup costs compared to the motor, additional field resource, increased traffic enforcement, reduced traffic collisions, higher visibility, increased community involvement. So almost the same benefits as a motor. However, I can tell you that a motor is more effective out in the field when it comes to having that visibility and having the lack of visibility for these motorists who are violating the law. So they're typically more productive.
If I can interrupt you again, in that regard, in your opinion, what would be more effective for commercial enforcement? A dedicated traffic officer or a motor officer?
I think for commercial enforcement, if you don't, which isn't on one of the alternatives, if you don't hire or dedicated commercial enforcement officer, they would both be just as productive. I don't think there would be a difference. The only concern I would have is if the motor's working in a construction area where there might be a lot of rocks, a lot of dirt, which could pose a hazard for him. But if he decided to go conduct that type of enforcement on a specific day or a specific complaint, he could always take a car, a black and white if he needed to.
Or her, it is 2000.
I'm sorry, absolutely. The deputy, I should say the deputy. Thank you.
PC here. Thank you.
The fourth alternative, which had been discussed before, is contracting for a dedicated patrol community service officer. This is a non-sworn position whose primary responsibility would be to respond to low priority calls for service, such as past thefts with no suspect information, and also to transport prisoners for deputies if a deputy arrests an individual. Although this would be the lowest investment, it is a position with limited flexibility because it's a non-sworn position, a person that does not have law enforcement powers and does not carry a firearm. And so this individual, a community service officer, would not conduct proactive criminal enforcement and does not conduct traffic enforcement or traffic stops, and only documents past crimes with no suspect information if they respond to a call for service. This position would increase the budget about $115,000, about a little over $121,000 with increased mileage costs because they do drive around in a black and white vehicle. Benefits for this position would be an additional field resource, that they do handle non-priority calls, which in turn would relieve that function from a sworn deputy. Reduces deputy patrol response times because of that. Transports prisoners for the deputies, has higher visibility throughout the community, and increased community involvement. The Hoopa Valley Station currently has community service officers, but the CSOs that we have rotate throughout the communities, and they're not dedicated to any specific community. So they do transport here in this community when they're needed, if they're available, However, it's usually like one per shift, if that. And they rotate between all three communities that the Rupert Valley Station services. This is the police budget recommendation. After careful consideration and the recommendation from the Public Safety Commission, we recommend 10 patrol hours plus the additional motor officer. We feel that with the ability to enforce the traffic violations and the ability to handle in progress or higher priority calls, this would be the best option for the community. And available for any questions you may have.
Go first. That's your cue. Yes. No, I was thinking of questions myself. All right. Do we have any questions from the council at this time?
Obviously, there's going to be unavoidable situations where we're actually going to have a deficit in hours for certain days. Are those made up throughout the year? Or are there times where we're going to see an extra deputy or two in the city because you're making up hours that were lost previously?
Exactly. We have a very detailed review of the actual contract hours every day. It goes from the sergeant who directly supervises the patrol. They put the spreadsheet together with all the daily contract hours. That goes to the lieutenant who supervises the contract, which in turn goes to my accountant, which in turn, once a month, I go to a commander's meeting that involves all the commanders throughout the various stations and the executive staff, and I provide them where we're at. So we are very aware of the hours that either are over or we're at a deficit. So our goal is to keep it as zero, straight aboard as much as we can. However, we do go up and over and under depending on when people call off sick, if people don't sign up to work the overtime when it's available. So we do make up those hours. We try to keep it with at least 99% as much as we can.
It sounds like your accounting system is pretty good, but are there any independent audits that are done or periodic audits that are done, I don't know, by your headquarters or outside independent auditors?
You know, I haven't dealt with that yet since I've been there. However, I know that when I had a conversation with my head accountant, probably about a month and a half ago, and she said that one of the cities actually came in, the contract cities, and audited the records, and there was no issues with it.
That was going to be my next question. If there is not a system like that in place, is that something that we could do?
She said it's been done, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. And realistically, those are your records. You're contracting for services, so we understand that you want to make sure that everything's appropriately funded and that we're providing the services that we're supposed to provide.
Yeah, the trust but verify, right?
Absolutely.
Ronnie. That's all I got, Mayor.
Awesome. Brandon, do you have any questions?
I'm going to hold first for a little bit.
Okay.
I think the city
Councilmember,
manager had a comment.
I'm sorry, Mayor Lorimer. There was one portion of the staff report that I do want to make sure we touch on, and that is, which is very important and pertinent to this discussion. At the time of the budget, we really didn't have any wiggle room to increase staffing due to financial constraints. But the recent passage of SB 130 did provide the city with our fair share of vehicle license fee revenue from the state of California. At the time of the adoption of our budget, it was promised, and there's a lot of going back and forth about the date and the amount, and I'd heard different numbers from different sources, and initially they had said don't expect your first VLF payment to come until the end of May 2018, in which case I was really not recommending any staffing changes because I am very conservative and recommend that we don't count our chickens before they're hatched. But I recently received notice from the California Department of Finance and the Auditor Controller's Office that they would be distributing the VLF payment in 2 installments every fiscal year, with the first installment coming to the city of Eastvale at the end of January in 2018. Hence, my urgency, if the council wishes to make any changes, that we capitalize on that information and the fact that there's an academy coming in February. So the dollar amount that the city has been advised that we would receive in total is roughly $4.3 million, with half of that amount coming in one installment in January of 2018 and the second installment coming later in the year. They do follow the payment of property taxes. So taxes are due in December. Hope you all paid them, which means that we get a subsequent payment in January and then again later in the year. So while we are speaking specifically about a law enforcement contract staffing hours, there are other considerations at City Hall that will be coming to you at a later date. But based on this information, we do feel, staff does feel that there is room for council consideration to make any changes to the Sheriff's Department contract at this time. I do also want to let you know, based on some of the questions that I had received prior to this agenda item, there's been some misinformation circulating around. Public Safety Commission did bring up this question, which I want to share with you, that our contract services are dispersed to the unincorporated areas to backfill their shortage, and that is not true. Our contract service hours stay with the city of Eastvale. Of course, the Sheriff's Department is required to meet the needs of any mutual aid request, but our deputies and our contract is not shifted to unincorporated areas to cover any shortage of manning that they may have.
Michelle, with that being said, can that be verified? I know it's where we say it, but can that also be verified in auditing? I know we say that, but can it be verified that that's the case?
It can be. We keep track of every deputy's hours. When they leave the community for any reason, if it's within a certain amount of time, it's tracked on there.
Yeah, and the reason why I ask is I have a lot of constituents that bring up the same concerns, and it's one of those things like, yeah, I'd love to be equipped with the information, actually the data, to be able to say, yeah, here's what it is right here, but I can't, because I'm only going off of what I'm hearing. You know what I'm saying? So it would be nice to have that information
Understood,
available.
but the constituents have to see there is a difference between their perception and the reality of the situation. If the city of Norco has an incident and they're asking for mutual aid, our officers are going to assist. And so I've gotten that feedback as well from the citizens. Oh, I see the Eastvale PD unit in the city of Norco. They are probably there on a mutual aid assistance, and we can certainly back that up with some data.
To interject, it's not about the mutual aid, it's just about backfilling was the concern. In a state of emergency, it's different. That's not the concern.
Right.
It was if if we're just actually filling gaps.
And real quick, just regarding the mutual aid, just for clarification for public, that's regardless of any agency,
Correct.
regardless
From
of
counties.
Sheriff's Department
Yeah.
Correct.
or
Correct.
local PD.
Right, there's a
Be the fires
code
that are going
that
with fire.
they would call out over dispatch for a mutual aid for any
Yeah.
agency to respond.
It's Cal Fire going to
but-
Ventura, right now.
Correct, correct. But this is also an important subject to bring up, because I do realize that there's some campaigning going on, and there has been a lot of misinformation that has even made it into the newspapers on just this point, that contract cities are bearing the burden for staffing shortages throughout the county, and that is not correct. This is actually straight from the undersheriff himself, that we get what we are paying for, and that they're not going to be utilizing our contract to backfill in unincorporated areas or other cities that have a shortage unless it is mutual aid.
I was just going to address it anecdotally from personal experience. The county areas get ripped off more often to fill the contract service hours. That's usually where the priority is. It's not to fill the county area because that's the county area. It's the board. There's no contract. The board of supervisors just says, "Hey, sheriff, I need you to cover these areas," and the sheriff assigns units. So if there's a shortage in a contract city, they obviously need to fulfill their obligations. So they will pull somebody from the contract area or from the county area to the contract city. That's my experience, and I'm assuming it works kind of the same way. My other thing was
oh, sorry, go ahead.
my other should we choose to go ahead and initiate this change to the contract and ask for the 10 additional hours in the motor, and that won't come online. Obviously, we will not be billed until the services come on, until those units come online. My question is, should something catastrophic occur where some of this funds that we're anticipating coming in don't ever get realized, are we on the hook for anything if we decide to make a new amendment and say, hey, sorry, I know we budgeted for these, but we need to change our mind. We can't afford it right now. Is there any kind of penalty that we would incur?
That's a very good question. So you're correct. We do not get billed until the position is filled. So, but should something happen and we've asked for, 10 hours and now we can't afford 10 hours, we would get billed for, it's my understanding, we would get billed if that person was put through the academy. We would be responsible for any costs incurred for the academy unless another city were to snatch that position up. And based upon the feedback from my colleagues at the Contract Cities meeting, there's many cities that are all vying for additional officers at this time. So I can't say with certainty, but it does seem that the supply is short and the demand is high. So if there were a change unforeseen, I'm hoping that someone else would be able to pick up that body.
So just to clarify, we would only pay for the training, and we would have to continue paying for that item until someone else picked him up.
We would have to amend the contract to decrease the staffing, but we would be responsible for what was incurred during that time that the person was filled. Is that your question?
If I may just offer that, that's one of my major concerns, is being conservative, of us being cautious of that, because I personally don't think it's a smart move for us to do. I don't think that we're in a huge rush to get this pushed through. I realize that there's academies. I realize that we have this money hopefully coming in. We've been told we received something, but we do not have it in our account. It's basically writing a check and post-dating this check saying, hey, let's hope that we get the money in before they cash the check. I don't see a huge, I want to commend the Sheriff's Department on what they have done. I mean, they've done a great job. You look at the increase in call numbers, but the decrease in response time. You look at the increase in traffic tickets and you look at the decrease in accidents. They're effective with what they're doing right now. I don't want us to be on the hook for something. I don't think that we see a huge increase in crime all of a sudden that's going to happen in October, November of 2018, that we need to make sure that we have this right away. I don't think we need to be in such a rush to do this. I think we need to make sure that we have the money, that we're able to make those decisions. I don't think it's smart for us to go out and buy something and put it on a credit card hoping that hopefully in a few months that I'll have the money to pay for it.
So the first installment of the VLF is coming at the end of January.
Do we have an exact date of that?
Yes, it follows the property tax. We've already gotten a statement from the Auditor Controller's Office that went out to all of the cities as well as the 4 newly incorporated cities and lists all of the total dollar amounts and the distributions.
If we have that money coming in and if we're assured that money, then regardless of what we decide on tonight, number of hours, patrol, motor, CS, whatever we decide on, One, if we're in an urgency to make that, I would like to make that on a contingency that we receive that money, that money's in our account. If that's not possible, then I think we need to wait.
So in speaking with the assistant sheriff, I believe is what the
Undersheriff?
Undersheriff, they will not make any changes to our contract until the Board of Supervisors has approved an amended contract. So it's.
Which will take how long?
The next week, well, assuming that let's assume the council will to request some change to the contract. That contract would still need to come back to you for your approval in January.
Yeah.
Then it would need to go to the County Board of Supervisors, so it would be based on their agenda availability. So I'm guessing at best, late January.
Michelle, to clarify the statement, obviously it's been earmarked. This has been earmarked as dedicated. And you said there's somewhat of a receipt of recognition that you've gotten from the state that we're getting that?
I've received a spreadsheet from the auditor controller listing all of the cities in Riverside County and specifically breaking out the 4 newly incorporated cities related to SB 130, and it gives the dollar amounts.
Thinking to Councilman Rigby's thoughts, and I get where he's coming from. I mean, is there a way to think out of the box? And I guess if we were to vote on, if we were to vote on the increase of law enforcement, then say on the contingency that we receive that, is that something we could work around? I guess, I know that might be more of a question too for Suzanne, but is that something that we could vote in that fashion? To say on the contingency, we would accept X amount of hours and whatever?
I think that that's something that really, I'm not certain that the Board of Supervisors would approve. That's the hiccup. It may be something that we would ask for, but I can't say that the Board of Supervisors would approve a contingency such as that.
I have a few other questions. Is that okay?
I'm sorry, I have one other item I wanted to bring to your attention regarding my conversation with the Assistant Sheriff. He indicated that there is some legislature coming down that is going to have a significant impact on our response times, and maybe Captain Hedge can elaborate on this, but it has to do with every time an officer engages, if you do a traffic stop, they're now going to have to fill out a form guesstimating what the person's sexual or sex is and what their ethnicity may be or their race, and it has to do with racial profiling. And I apologize, I can't recall the number, but it is going to add substantial time onto each traffic stop, each engagement.
To go back to the fiscal impact, if something happened and we didn't get the funding, it wouldn't affect us directly. What it would impact is putting money into the reserve fund. We put money into the reserve fund every year. So what would happen, that worst case scenario is we just wouldn't be able to put money into the reserve fund because we would have to cover some expenses. So just to answer your question, so I don't consider it that big of an issue. And with the pending legislation, I would hope that that's already being done. We already do it. Every contact you log, the race, the sex, age of every person you come in contact, it's already done. All they're doing is mandating it now, that's all. But most agencies have already done it, unless there's...
But they can't ask.
Yeah, we're working on the actual required documentation. What it looks like it's going to be a completely separate form than we're doing right now. So it'll be a little bit more time consuming for us. We're working through it right now, but it looks like it's going to happen. It just when we're going to implement it.
Right, and it's what the assistant sheriff said is that the officers are not allowed to ask, right? Is that
correct?
So, a quick clarifying question, and that is on time for today's meeting. Are we going to be kicked out of here in 10 minutes?
At 10:15.
Awesome.
And we have a scheduled closed session.
Yes, and we do. All right, Brandon, please.
Real quick, if we do add this, does this change? Because first, this was the first I heard that we were in a 5-year agreement that we signed back in June of 2016. If we create this addendum, does it also renew the agreement, or does it stay from the existing Does it still begin at June of 2016?
You know what, that's a good question that I'm not really ready to answer. I believe it's just an addendum adding the positions to the current contract. I don't believe that the terms of the contract length changed at all.
All right. I just want to make a comment because I know we're going to get to voting, and I just want to give my 2 cents. I think it's necessary that we do. I think there's a substantial amount of information that we have, and Captain Hedge and Lieutenant Martin, you guys are doing a fantastic job in all different aspects, and I'm very excited to have you guys, and I mean that in all sincerity. I think we do need to add the 10 additional motor hours, the patrol hours, for all the reasons that have already been suggested. I don't necessarily believe that a motor officer is going to solve some of the problems, and just based on some of the stats, if you look at, a lot of times the motor officer does deal with traffic citations. Our traffic citations on great work, we've gone up 41%. If you take, because our stats are on 2017 year-to-date October, if you take that traffic citation, we've increased it to 41%. I don't want the perception, and it's great, and I think it's awesome, we're doing a fantastic job, but I think just adding that, I don't want the perception of Eastville just being a ticketing place. All right? I'm concerned of that. There's a concern I have of that. But our parking citations, 11%. Great. It's awesome with the staff we have. And collisions will be about the same. It'll be decreased, but only by about, it's a decrease, so it's great, but about, if we look at year to date, when we all finish it out, it looks like it'll be about 19 less accidents when it's all said and done. I think we take this in a conservative approach, say, hey, let's add the 10 additional hours, right? And then let's see how that goes. What I would like to add, and it'll be later in comments, but I really think we need to reconsider, again, empowering our officers more. We've discussed this with Captain Hedge. I know you've had this discussion before, is really have a serious look at ALPR cameras, whether we do it on fixed areas throughout the city, or we do it on the Eastville branded patrol vehicles. But really have a really serious look at this. I think that will go so much further in having the proper technology, and it's out there, and there are cities that are doing it and are having great success at it. And I know we got to work out the fine tune because we're talking about city and a Riverside County Sheriff. I think we can get through the semantics. We can figure that out. And then on a separate note is we'll actually get more fixed cameras throughout our entry exits to the city, just actual fixed cameras, have nothing to do with ALPRs. I think we need to consider that as kind of the discussion maybe after the fact as a subsequent conversation. But I'd like to see that, and again, maybe a further comment, I'll make it as my city council comments as a direction. But I think it's in a package to look at everything.
So that is also a discussion I had with the assistant sheriff. And the county is currently going through reviewing and selecting a new vendor for their ALPRs on patrol units. He said the city could install fixed ALPRs at our own expense at fixed locations at the entrance of the city, but he said those are mostly preventative in nature, that data would not be transmitted through dispatch and put directly into the patrol officers' vehicles, so it wouldn't be live. It would be data that would be used after the fact for solving crimes, but it wouldn't be a live feed. Because they need to control it needs to be part of their, if we wait and go with their vendor and tie it into their entire IT system, then it's a live feed. But if we, at our own expense, and choose our own vendor and do stationary installation, then it's more of a preventative measure, or react.
Yeah, I think that's my second solution, just not even having ALPR cameras, having cameras that have the capability to read license plates, which are two different things.
Correct.
But have the ALPR cameras actually have the analytics behind it, either whether it be on a fixed area, but again, working with Riverside County Sheriff when they figure out what exactly the vendor they're going to use. It's just money better spent, and then equipping your officers with appropriate information, making everyone far more efficient. I think it's something we just need to really start considering as a council as we look at this. But I think for a motor officer, I don't know if that's...
So it is two different things, the stationary versus the patrol ALPRs. And the sheriff's department said they're about a year out from selecting a vendor, but I did offer up the city of Eastville to be their beta. So,
Ms. Cooper, do we have any public comments on this?
No, we do not.
Does anybody want to say anything on this subject from the public? Okay, seeing none. I wanted to make sure because I saw that you were getting up to leave. I didn't know if you had hung out specifically for this. Okay, all right. Do we have any more council discussion? Mr. Rush?
I do, and I don't know if we're gonna get through this in the time, because, let me ask a procedural question. Have we already advertised for the December 18th special meeting and set that agenda?
Let me check the city's website.
I thought I saw something from Steven saying he wanted to make sure that there was no confusion, so
We're going to post the agenda tomorrow.
tomorrow. And it has to be posted no later than,
72 hours. Well, I'm sorry, it's a special meeting, so
24 hours.
Friday.
Well, my thought is maybe, and that, I know it makes for a long day and I don't want to inconvenience staff, but if there's not a resolution on this, because I don't want to make a quick decision, but I don't know if I want to necessarily punch this to the first of the year. If, we might be able to put this either on the front part or the back part of the agenda, but either way, you know, I've been an advocate for the increased hours, I think, for the last year, so I'm glad this is coming to us. I'm a bit surprised as to the staffing startup. Maybe if we had more time, you know, I'd be curious as to what the Sheriff's Department is doing holistically to try to address the systematic staffing issues. I mean, I see the Facebook ads all the time, you know, join RSO, billboards, all that stuff. It didn't hit me that it was that substantial. It may be a different discussion for a different day. I agree with, you know, not creating a ticketing mentality, but to take everyone back, gosh, it may be 2 years now, maybe more. The reason we hired put in place and hired a motor officer and went through that process was not necessarily for speeding citations, although, you know, that's an obvious benefit, was to combat school complaints. For the last several years, and I think it's died down to a certain extent, could be education, you know, could be the advent of the motor officer, maybe a combination, you know, weekly, if not daily, I think we all got complaints on school traffic. Unfortunately, you cannot, you know, always police the behavior of all the parents, throwing the kids out the door and, you know, making illegal U-turns and all that stuff. But I think it's had a more than substantial positive impact on reducing some of the minor fender benders. You know, there was a rash there. I think it was over like a month. We had a couple kids hit at Eleanor Roosevelt. I think it's gotten substantially better. And, you know, I benefit, or I tack a lot of that progress onto the back of the motor officer and what we've done to curb some of those issues. So I'm more in favor of that, because I think, you know, as we grow, traffic related to school and school impacts, as it combines and correlates with residential home starts, you know, that's always going to be a dynamic we're going to have to deal with. I'm also fairly concerned about commercial enforcement, also given what Captain said with respect to AB 109 and Prop 57 and 47. But I do think we are in line for a wave of criminal activity. You know, and maybe the uptick during the holiday season has kind of cloaked that a little bit. But I think we're going to get hit. I honestly do. And Councilmember Tsari and I have had these conversations at, I think, the Contract Cities conference that we went to. Some of the things they were talking about were scary. Were really, really scary, you know, with the implementation of Prop 57 and the behind the scenes, under the radar rules and regulations that are being written. I mean, I don't know if it's true or not. You can't believe everything you read on social media, but, you know, that a vehicle theft under $950 is going to get you, you know, less of a punishment than a speeding ticket. anecdotally, those things are happening. Whether that's specifically true or not, I take with a grain of salt. But I think we need to move on this. We've been talking about this for a year. I'm confident that the finances are going to work out. We're kind of in that scenario where we just, I analogize it as we're just started a new job, and it's a great new job. We got, great pay, great benefits. We're just waiting for the first paycheck to kick in. We're waiting for the insurance benefits to kick in. We know it's coming. We're going to, be all right. And later down the line, we see these things, and we've talked about it. We don't want to count our chickens before we hatch, but we have 2 facilities that are going to be coming on that, not this coming year, but the year after that, we'll probably see the financial benefits from. So I'd like to move forward with it. If we need more discussion, I'd make the bold recommendation, if staff could figure out how to do it and it doesn't tick anybody off too much, that if we can't make a decision tonight and have fruitful discussion, that we continue it to December 18th. I apologize in advance to staff for having to scramble, either before or after the meeting, and try to get this taken care of before we all leave for the holidays.
Okay, at this time, I'm looking for a motion.
I'm sorry, just speaking with our legal counsel, the closed session that is tonight, you could adjourn this meeting and continue that item to Monday. You could also, I know that there are 2 more agenda items. Those can be shifted to Monday if you wish to continue this discussion. And also, a point of clarification, the increase in a lot of the citations is because we have implemented handheld citation devices for all the traffic officers. So it went to an automated system, and that's why there's also a significant uptick that was in the last 8 months.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I'm all about it, right? I just said, if we're talking about patrolling and actually doing that, I think just the 10 hours would be suffice, and that's a motor officer. And if we wanted to look at schools, we could look at considering, community service officer that would do the same, and at a lesser expense.
And off of both Councilmember Plott and Councilmember Rush's statements, I understand the need around the schools, and that is crucial. That is what we need. But like Councilmember Plott said, I think a lot of the issues around the schools are not always concerning moving vehicles. A lot of them are vehicles parked in red areas, vehicles illegally parked, that I think a CSO can do a great job at. And you can get a CSO for $120,000 compared to a motor officer that's startup cost is $350,000 and then recurring cost is $307,000. The other, going back to my concern, and kind of Councilmember Tessari's comment, if we move forward with this, do we have the funds if the VLF doesn't come in to cover this? Because the other thing is if we look at it in the long term, we're locked into this till 2021. What happens if the VLF gets pulled away again?
No, we amend it again.
Mm-hmm.
We just do another amendment.
Well, I think procedurally, if I heard it correctly, the time it's going to take to actually get this contract inked and executed, we should have our first check by then. And I don't know how it works logistically, but we're not going to have this staff for at least third quarter of 2018. Is that a reasonable explanation?
That is correct.
So when do we start? Do we start paying for the increased time when the contract is executed? That's typically how, but we don't have the staff or until they start incurring those hours.
Yeah, you'll start paying the additional costs when the deputy is actually assigned to the community.
So it would work, like we do a professional services agreement. We're going to approve you a budget, and that's authorized by the council, and then when you start billing us, then we'll pay you for that.
When they begin work, they bill.
So, and we don't pay you guys back in it's like 60 days? So, we probably won't.
No, so assuming the Board of Supervisors were to agree to the contract amendment in end of January, that person goes into the academy in February. When the position is filled and assigned to Eastville is when we start getting billed for it. The Sheriff's Department has said it's going to take up to a year. So we're not going to get...
The academy is 6 months?
Yes.
We're not going to get billed for that position until it is filled.
And I just want to point out that there's not a guarantee that a body for the city of East will even go into the February Academy.
Correct.
You know, my prior assignment before I came here was working in personnel, hiring, recruiting, and marketing, and they might already have the positions that they're hiring for those vacancies already. However, I know for a fact that they're scrambling to get probably up to 60 deputies in that academy. Whether or not that includes county positions that would be assigned to the county or all contract city positions, I don't know. So I just want to say that although we're moving as quick as possible, if that's the direction we go, there's no guarantee that they will even be in the February Academy. It could be the next one, which I don't even know when that is.
Okay.
I would move for a compromise.
At this time, we're ending discussion and moving towards a motion.
I would make a
Anybody?
motion that we come back with an amended contract that increases patrol service hours by 10 only, and not move on the motor officer at this time.
Okay. We have a first to amend the contract for only the increase in 10 hours. Do we have a second? Or a second motion?
I'll second that.
We have a second. Ms. Cooper.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to
Yes.
move a secondary motion or substitute motion.
What's the substitute motion?
I would like to move that we accept sorry, it's been a long day. Public Safety's recommendation and staff's recommendation for the additional 10 hours and the motor officer.
Okay, we have a first.
With all due respect to my colleagues.
We have a first. Do we have a second?
Can I make one other motion? What about adding a CSO?
I don't think you
Substitute
can.
motion. What about adding 10 hours and adding a CSO instead?
I wouldn't agree to that.
Okay.
Okay, no, the friendly amendment. Do we have a second?
I will second the motion by Councilman Rush.
We have a second from Councilmember Tesseri. Okay. Any further discussion?
So just for staff, we're going to vote on the second motion first.
Okay.
Councilmember Plott?
Yes.
What are we
We
voting
are
on?
voting on the second, and that is to adopt the staff's recommendation for the additional 10 hours and the motor officer. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we are voting on the substitute motion first. Ms. Cooper?
Councilmember Plott?
Yes.
Councilmember Rush?
Aye.
Councilmember Tessari?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rigby?
No.
Mayor Lorimore?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
You said yes.
I said yes.
Okay. All right, that concludes item number 9.2. So we will see as time goes forward. 9.3, at this point, where are we in, where we need to
I'd
end the meeting?
recommend we move approval, unless there's any questions.
Second.
Okay, just to make clear on this, this is to rescind the fact that we are not enforcing regulations.
Correct.
I have a question on that. Has that been, is JCSD still holding on to their water regulations? Because I know when the governor released the regulations, JCSD still held on to theirs.
Yes, they're still at a level 2, right?
I don't think they changed their level
Right.
originally, so how does that affect us?
You know what, this item is actually a little bit more complex, and we may want to continue it. I would-
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I would suggest that there's, in the presentation, we get into some of the unintended consequences of simply starting to enforce the regulations again.
So if we can't do this in 6 minutes, I'd recommend we continue it to December 18th.
Okay, do we need to vote on that, or
At
we
least
can
a
just do
consensus
that?
or a motion.
What do you guys
I
think?
moved it, so.
I would suggest that you make a motion to continue it to a date certain.
I would recommend that I'd move that we move it to December 18th.
And then when you adjourn this meeting, you would adjourn it to the December 18th date and
Okay.
time.
Okay, excellent. All right, we have a first, we have a second. Okay.
I have a question. What if I'm not, because I won't be attending the December 18th meeting? Do I still get a vote on this or no?
You will or you will not.
I will not be at the December 18th meeting.
Then you cannot vote because you won't be there.
Fair enough.
But he can vote on continuing it
on
to
this,
then.
on continuing it.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Okay, just that was my question. Just semantics,
Sorry.
just semantics, sorry.
Okay, all right, so that does it for items 9.3.
I'm sorry, Eric, how long do you anticipate? We're going to spend 15 minutes on this, 20 minutes, 30 minutes?
15, 20, depends on where the discussion goes. Presentations, maybe 5 minutes.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, do we have consensus on this?
Yes.
Gentlemen?
Yes.
Yes, okay. This item is being continued to the meeting on December 18th. City manager, staff reports, anything?
In the interest of time, I'm going to pass.
Okay. All right. Any pressing items that we can't hear on, that can't wait until the 18th?
Just
Nope,
maybe the
hearing
clo-
none. Item number 11, City Council Communications Committee reports. Anybody? That we can't wait to talk about this till the 18th?
I just have one. There was a contract amendment with Atkinson Walsh, who's the contractor for the 91 CIP project, in the amount of $53.7 million today. There's also additional $6 million, or excuse me, $600,000 awarded to Stantec Engineering for additional work. So there's a big movement afoot to try to fix some of the issues with the 91, and that's a substantial amount of money. There was a lot of discussion both last month and today. Hopefully, we won't have to pay out any more.
Thank you, Councilmember Rush. Councilmember Platt.
That's okay, I'm fine.
I do have, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted, kind of going back to the conversation we had prior in regards to cameras, I'd like to try to see if we can direct staff to look at, outside of ALPR cameras, but to look at cameras that border our entry-exit points to our cities. And it might be an appropriate time, so we're talking to the service provider that are trying to fix these cameras to their manufacturer, but to look to add additional cameras throughout the city that would, good enough quality that would be able to, again, not necessarily their license plate readers, but good enough to capture a license plate. That technology exists. It's relatively affordable. It's not overly priced in the times we're at. So I'd like to direct staff if we can actually look at that and see the cost and come back with some solutions on that. And then on the ALPR, maybe on a separate conversation you can have with Michelle, because I've heard other information as well about there might be possibilities of doing it sooner.
Any other comments or direction to staff? Okay, I do have 2 items that I would like to see added to future agendas. Number 1 is that I would like to solidify a structure, a process as to how we do a transition as we experienced tonight. So creating something that is a little bit more tangible. If we could get a report on what other cities do in this regard, policies that they have in place, and if we could discuss this at a future meeting. Also, I would like at a future meeting in the not too distant future that we have a study session prior to the meeting where we will discuss desires of the council, things that they would like to see implemented over the coming year, strategy session, goals. So, at this time, any other comments? No. Okay, at this time, we're going to move to the closed set. We'll be recessing to closed session to discuss item 12.1.
Mayor Lorimer, just for clarification, the study session, would this be in addition to the study sessions that we do for workshop where we do goal setting and in addition to? Okay.
Yeah. I know we've done it for budget. I want to set up a plan for the coming year outside of that, of certain policy things we'd like to see implemented. So, thank you.